Tonight from iRacing's virtual Phoenix Raceway in Avondale, Arizona, we say good evening, Sim Racing fans, and welcome to the last week of the 2023 NIS season. This is the iRacing Phoenix NASCAR finale. All season long, some of the top drivers on the official side of oval racing here on iRacing have been competing in full-length NASCAR Cup Series races, and their 2023 season ends tonight with a full race here at Phoenix. We're happy that you're spending this Wednesday evening with us. Alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Dylan Coyle, and our producer downstairs is Joshua Lee. And Dylan, these races unique to what we mostly see here with RaceSpot and the iRacing Esports Network in terms of all of the private leagues that you see, even to the likes of the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, not full distance. Tonight, that's exactly what we're doing. Call it a preview, if you will, for Sunday's NASCAR Cup finale. It is a full race distance event here tonight in Phoenix, and it'll be a fun one.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and thank you, Evan. Looking forward to calling this race with you, and I promise you I'm not moving in 15 frames a second as it looks like I'm moving right now. It was a whole thing before we got on the broadcast, but it's going to be a lot of fun here at Phoenix. 312 laps, 312 miles. Some names that we're pretty familiar with throughout the entire iRacing world, whether that's in leagues that I believe you manage, Evan, or the official series, seeing some of the top-ranked, top-I-rated drivers in the field. It's going to be interesting to see how they tackle this challenge tonight.
It'll be a fun one, right? I mean, this is by far not the longest race that we've seen on the NIS calendar. We've covered a lot of them here as well as part of the iRacing special events calendar. It feels like it was just the other day we were at Bristol for a 500-lap affair there. And now here with this race at Phoenix, the final NASCAR race on the special events calendar. Of course, there is still more to come as we race through the month of November and into December. The 8-hour race at Fuji, the iRacing Winter Derby, and the Chili Bowl all still to come, and then we reset it and do it all again here in 2024. But I think fitting, right? We started the NIS calendar back in February with the full-length Daytona 500s, and now we close it here with this NASCAR finale. And let's talk about this Phoenix Raceway. It's been around for a long time. I don't really think it's fair to call it the new configuration, Dylan. It's been around for quite some time, right? Once upon a time, that back straightaway was where the start-finish line was. Those grandstands have been gone for a long time, and this 1-mile racetrack in the desert is one of the most beautiful facilities you could visit in real life. On the sim, bit of a challenge. Not everybody's favorite racetrack. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It is going to be a bit of endurance to be able to get through these full-length races, and it's a tough track to differentiate yourself from the rest of the field at.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a mile track, and a lot of people like to say that mile tracks are sometimes short tracks, sometimes, just normal speedways. I feel like Phoenix, although it has some elements, especially over the last few years, the work they've done with the track, especially through the tri-oval, it's got some elements of that 1.5 mile cookie cutter that we usually see NASCAR go to. It does have some short track elements. Turns 1 and 2, the old 3 and 4, very flat. It's very unique and a challenge for these drivers to get through, whether it's on the lower grooves or up high and then entering near pit road. But we're about ready to go through the starting lineup for this race, and Joseph has the pole.
He is on pole. There is a handful of splits happening. This is the top split for tonight, and it is Joseph on pole position. He'll start alongside the number 1 ranked driver based on iRating in Nicholas Vroman. Then Sean Conklin in 3rd position. It'll be Jacob Schneider in 4th. They will make up row number 2, with Tommy Gossett rolling off from 5th and Joshua Watson in P6.
We continue moving down with Daniel Smallwood starting alongside Austin Fitzgerald in row 4. Dirk Heitman with Tom Wetmore, the top 10. Wetmore, one of our real sim racing drivers. Chris Wilhite alongside PB Henry, your front 6 rows.
Lucky number 13 tonight gets to go to J.R. Borborema in 13th position. William K. Price going to be the outside in P14. That'll make up row number 7. Matt Hollabaugh will start 15th alongside Corey Ensign in P16. And then it's Mark Paget in 17th and Brandon Bakey, P18.
Continue moving down with Miller Bonds and Josh Schaffner in 19th and 20th, while Lawrence Shaughnessy, Jacob Klein, and Daniel Nanny round out your first 23. These are just the drivers who actually set times. We've got 32 in the field tonight. A further 9 cars decided not to set a qualifying time, whether it was because of their own inclination not to do it or because they had issues, some mistakes that they just weren't able to get the time in. You see the track conditions, 29 degrees Celsius, and I think we're in Phoenix. Sometimes this race has been measured in kilometers. I don't know if you remember that.
With the theme, yeah, I like it.
It definitely is sticking with the theme in Fahrenheit. 85-degree track temperature. Not too hot, not too cold. I don't think it's going to be a big factor in this race.
Yeah, and I don't think anything out of the ordinary there. A little bit slow rolling off pit road for some of the cars on the outside. They're going to have to get around and go. Racetracks at a mile and up means that the green flag is going to come pretty quickly. And also, given the unique layout of the racetrack, pace car is going to dive off already, but they're only in turn 2. They're going to have to go all the way down the back straightaway into 3 and 4 before they're able to go. And yeah, to your point, 23 cars take a time into qualifying, 32 in the field total. So a third of the cars, no time in qualifying. Not really shocked to see that in an NIS Open race. A lot of drivers will start at the back, try to pace themselves, and make it the distance. It is a whole host, though, of Ryco Ford Mustangs at the front of the field. Joseph in control. Let's go racing at Phoenix. Contact as the 8 car. Joseph gets sideways, and he is going to lock it up and spin.
Wow.
Caution at the end of lap number 1. It all started. We saw Dylan Conklin got a great start. And unlike in the Cup Series, able to make that lane change before the start-finish line, cut under the 8 car. They fought side by side that whole opening lap, but eventually they basically just rode each other's door the entire time through 3 and 4, and it loosened up that 8 machine enough to spin them out. Now let's take a look.
Yeah, we'll get a good look here between Conklin and Joseph, and a lot of leaning on each other there, where Joseph, I don't know if it was a little bit of netcode that played a part in it, but it almost looked like he pinballed a little bit off of the number 2 of Sean Conklin. No harm, no foul. It's just a pole position turns into 32nd place at the end of lap 1. So he's got a lot of work to do, but we know he's got the speed and there was no damage. Take a look inside Joseph's Ford Mustang here, and he is pinching him. That's for sure. That's absolutely for sure. You can't be shocked that he comes up a little bit, but it did look like it was a bit of a bounce off, maybe connection instabilities.
And with losing all of that track position, he's going to come down pit road. Maggie McGuire also down to pit road. So a couple of takers. Looks like Alan Pajari, Gregory Thompson also going to come down. But, of course, none of your race leaders or top cars in. Only cars towards the rear of the field opting to pit this time through. And it is an early yellow in this race. It's kind of all for loss for Joseph, who put down that 27.100 in the qualifying session. To get the pole position. Now he's way in the back and is going to have a lot of work to do. The positive note is there is a long way to go in this race. 309 laps still on the board. Again, 312 miles with this racetrack being 1 mile per lap. And, of course, NIS Open means open setup, so these drivers running whatever they brought to the racetrack. It is not mandated from car to car like some other events that we see. And on this iRacing special events calendar, open is the theme. No fast repairs available, so that goes back to the conversation about some drivers not taking a time into qualifying, trying to start at the back and outlast this race, maybe some chaos early. You have to keep your car in one piece. You do have unlimited tire sets, though, and 100% fuel capacity. So not a lot of added strategy, but I don't really think you need to slash the tire sets or slash the fuel capacity, because I think the full race distance is kind of enough of a strategy play in its own right.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like having that 100% tank, having unlimited tires, it's a big deal. Usually, you have maybe 8 sets of tires, 7, depending on the length of the race, obviously. This one I would expect somewhere in the range of 6 to 8. It really doesn't matter, right? Like, you can go in as many times as you want. Pace car goes off. Still a little bit of a way to go until we get to green flag racing again. But it takes away an element of strategy, but it does add more of a, all right, I can go full speed whenever I want, unless I'm trying to save it on a long run. But we're about to go back to green flag racing, maybe more than one lap full this time.
All the Ryco performance machines up front didn't play nice with each other last time. We'll see how they negotiate it this time through. Tommy Gossett jumps up from 5th to 3rd. He fills the empty spot on row 2, but it's Sean Conklin with a great restart. He leads down what was the backstretch through the dogleg and off to the lesser banked and sweeping turns 1 and 2.
All moving through 1 and 2. So far, so good. You see the differing lines. Not really that many variations. You have most of them running right above that yellow line, and maybe one groove above that. You see it's almost 4 distinct. Oh, there's a wreck again. This time we might have a car into the wall. We do, and they're still wrecking up front. Oh, man. Lots of damaged cars that are fast in this one. Daniel Smallwood around. He was the one who made contact with the outside wall, and they just kept wrecking.
Yeah, he was where it started in the center of 3 and 4, but Derek Kiteman and many other drivers trying to pick up the pieces kind of cascaded from that point on. After the 5 car spun up and into the outside wall, it was contact with Smallwood and the 11 of Joshua Watson. And well, the 5 spins out after the contact between those two. Then it's keep an eye on the 11 of Watson, who causes the rest of the chaos. So here's the run again through that lesser bank, turns 1 and 2. So trying to build up some speed and head down the back straightaway. And then as they head to turns 3 and 4, you see the dive to the bottom. The 11's a little bit higher, gets the 5. The 5's going to spin out of the way, but right there on the bottom, the 11 car doesn't spin up and wide. He spins in the racing lane, and he gets run over from all those cars behind him right there. The 4, the 3
boy.
company. And when this starts in the top 10, I mean, that's a track blocker right there.
Absolutely. There's a lot of room right underneath his start-finish line, but when it's happening in a pack like that, we're going to have catastrophes happening more often than not. Here's from Lawrence Shaughnessy's point of view. You see the car go up top, that's Smallwood, and then it's just unbelievably congested all quickly. He might have gotten hit by the 11 just barely in the right rear quarter panel, but hey, he did a good job of slowing down as much as he could. Some cars getting more damage than others there. I think the 11, of course, we were watching with the 11 right there is pretty much fine, but use it for strategy at this point. Joshua Watson, I think, had a pretty big hit in that one.
So just like that, a lot of cars who started up front drop down. Josh Watson, Joseph, Daniel Smallwood, Derek Heitman, all cars who started inside of the top 10 and now actively run outside of the top 23. So early turmoil from the very front of the field. I mentioned earlier, remember those cars that want to start at the back, stay out of trouble? That's normally a strategy to avoid the mess midfield, right? That's kind of where you expect things to be chaotic, but thus far, both yellows have started with contact between cars in the top 5. So we'll see if that attrition rate keeps things up. A couple of drivers entering the picture with those cars spilling out. Matt Hollabaugh enters the top 10. He goes from 15th to 8th and continues to make his way forward. Conklin on the inside of the front row. Nicholas Vroman back to the outside. Green flag back in the air.
That was a massive jump for the front four right there. They get away pretty quickly. 5 wide, heading into 1. Some more contact going on mid-corner. They're all going to try and get away with it, but there's still lots of contact. It's been a physical race so far.
It's what this Phoenix Raceway is known for, are those restarts through the dog leg, and they're able to get to 2x2. Bit of a shot there on the inside. The 26 car moved the 7 up, and the 16 makes a mistake. Not a good exit for J.R. Borborema. He'll lose some positions. Now the 13 machine, Coriancing, to try to dive down to the bottom. That's the mid-pack Hornets nets that we were expecting to see. Looks like the top 5 have single filed out, and it's pretty much 2x2 from there on back.
Pretty much 2x2. Doesn't mean it's going to stay that way, especially going through 3 and 4 here. You get to fan out. This is where you start to see, again, everyone make their move sometimes later in a run, especially when the tires are old. You'll see everyone stay on track, maybe just to conserve those tires a bit more. But in this case, in this scenario, in this situation early on, you're going to try and get all the runs that you can get. So we see a move just underneath the 16 machine. That's Corey Enzing in the 13. We saw his point of view. He's side by side. And once again, they all fan out. So cool to see.
Try to make all these different lanes work in between the corners. And then once you get to the turn, kind of like a lane and a half. So drivers are able to make the outside work. The bottom's not too disadvantaged, but it's, not as multi-grooved as a Homestead, but not as single-grooved as, a Martinsville at times. There are some opportunities, and that's why you're seeing the field stick 2x2, is because both those lanes are a viable option seemingly early in this race. Up front, again, race leaders continuing to try to pull away from all of this that we're watching. You can see the front end damage there on the 9 of Brad Newman from some of the contact off of the restart. He's behind the 7 car.
Oh, the 20 is around. It's actually Joseph again, running in the number 8 in this race. Of course, numbers, it changes based on a few factors, but he is the number 8 ranked driver, and he was around again. Here's the replay of what we saw.
Ooh.
I mean, they were going 4 wide, but he did come down the inside, and he got his right rear tagged by the 20, and not too much damage again. But Joseph from pole to 2 incidents in the early goings here.
Yeah, this starts further back, and I mentioned drivers trying to work those multiple lanes in between the corners is because you really can't go 4 and 5 wide in the corner, and that's a perfect example why. Those 4 cars were 2x2 as they came off of 4. They spread to 4 wide through the dogleg, and when they got to the entry to turn 1, they were still 4 wide, and that's just not going to work. Nobody left enough room. The top car, the bottom car, the middle cars, there was just not room for 4 cars to go in there all next to each other. Great save, by the way, for the 14 and the 31 to hang on to it. Joseph just couldn't when he slid up to the outside and had some additional contact with the 20 car. Pit road a little bit busier this time through. Some cars in for repairs. You see the 8 of Joseph down there. Remember the numbers in these NIS open races and through these iRacing special events indicate the driver's iRating on the service. So the number 1 car in the field tonight, that's Nicholas Froman, has the highest iRating out of anybody in the field, and the lowest would be the number 32 car. That one to Gregory Thompson. That's all the numbers mean, not favorite numbers, not team picks, any of that. Purely based on iRating for these special events. So far, nobody out of the race. That's a positive so far, but I will say it's a full field. I get that, but I am a little surprised, Dylan, about all of the contact and cautions we've seen this early on.
Me too, and I wonder if it's almost a little bit of, this is the first open NIS race this season, well, I should say since March, that we've had at Phoenix. It's the first one of the week out of 4, so maybe these guys are a little bit antsy to get going here. Also, I know we talk top split, right? This is a great example of top split does not necessarily mean less contact or less or fewer mistakes. It really just means, like, when it comes down to racecraft and pace, these guys are going to go for it the entire way. I know sometimes people like to say, hey, lower splits are where all the horrible racing happens. I don't necessarily think that's completely true. I think there's equal opportunities to be bad and equal opportunities to be good. It just kind of depends on all the drivers' personalities and feelings for that race. I mean, look at a Cup Series race. Any time. Look at the Xfinity Series race on Saturday. End of story.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to see this throughout the rest of the NIS week here at Phoenix and, you know, into the other special events on the oval side of things as well, which we'll be bringing to you here on RaceSpot on the iRacing Esports Network. Lights on top of the pace car. We've seen a lot of cars come down pit road, but so far nobody inside of the top 20. Now, that doesn't mean cars from the top 20 haven't pitted. We've seen people gain positions because others have gone down and they haven't. But right now, that's the benchmark. Your top 20 are the drivers who have yet to pit so far tonight. From there on back, it is cars who have gotten service. Most of them getting 4 tires, fuel, and repairs, I think, has been the popular entree for the evening, but a long way still to go. 18 laps down, 294 to go, this time by the start-finish line. And Conklin and Vroman, who have been side-by-side on the front row each and every time, get set to do the dance once more. Conklin has been so good with the jump on the bottom. Vroman's been good enough to seal off a challenge for P2. Let's see what the 2 and the 1 do as they head off at turn 4. Green flag back in the air. It's another good start for Conklin. Vroman able to duck down and seal off Schneider, who was looking to his inside.
Once again, lots of contact in 1 and 2, 3 wide racing. Flatter portion of this circuit. A little bit of a bobble in front. 3 wide in the 3 and 4 is a little bit different.
Yeah, trying to get their way through the corner. This side of the racetrack's got a little bit more banking, so maybe more opportunity to stay 3 wide. Now more 4 wide. Look how low some of those cars get, just skimming the end of the pit road wall to cut the dog leg as soon as possible. But again, right here is where you got to wind it up, and you can see off of the back of Newman, that brown car midfield struggling. That was Miller Bonds, who got onto the apron, got sideways, lost about a dozen spots in the blink of an eye. There he is as he is able to recover, but he slides way down to what's going to be P30. So lost a handful on that one, and there's a good example of how low you can go. Corey Ensign's 13-4 way to the bottom, but you got to get back up to that yellow line into the corner to make the exit.
You see all that bobbling mid-pack right there. It's a hornet's nest in the back. They pull out of the corner, try and get wide. You know, one of the undervalued things of trying to get into turn 3 and then 4 here at Phoenix is that you've got that inside pit wall, kind of taking away any potential room for mistakes in 3. You go in there a little bit too deep. You saw what happened in the 2023 NASCAR All-Star race. Noah Gragson hit that inside wall at North Wilkesboro. It can happen here too. You see that? It's very easy to come underneath it, or at least try to, but not necessarily know or think, hey, I'm going to hit this inside wall. So sometimes you see a lot of problems stemming from that.
Looks like the leader's not having an issue of separating themselves. It's the top 4 clearance. There they are off of the corner in the first battle. Going to be side by side for 5th.
Yikes!
Switch there from Brad Newman. He's got that front end damage. We've talked about it. He may have made a touch there with Wetmore off of the corner. The 9 car caught it. Wetmore wasn't able to capitalize, and now we're going to go 3 wide. It's a PB and H sandwich with PB Henry down to the inside. He'll take both spots away.
I am going to ignore that. It's a good move.
Pretty good.
It was really, really good. Oh, look at that. Some more contact. Tom Wetmore and Brad Newman. Those two are going at it in this early going. Racing side by side just lets the rest of the field get away if they can. It also boxes in the 13 and the 16. 3 wide now. Wetmore scrapes the outside wall. Underneath the 9 is the 16. Pushes him up into Wetmore's lane. Good racing here.
Wetmore tried to get to the outside, couldn't do it. 9 finished the slide job. Wetmore gave him a shot because it was a bit of a tight squeeze there for Newman to force the issue. And now Wetmore seemingly struggling on the outside, but a mistake there. Borborema just could not get back onto the gas into 3. So as they come off of 4, Wetmore, blink of an eye, I was just talking about he was struggling on the outside. He's got the spot back. He's able to defend to P7. Wants to be a little bit further up the road, but at least he's out of that fight for now. And now Corey Ensign will go topside around JR Borborema. So it's going to be 2 spots lost for JR in 2 laps after he was the one on the attack.
And that's what happens here. You can really easily heat up those tires. That's why sometimes you see some drivers take it a little bit easier after a hard battle because they don't want to keep lighting up their rear tires, sometimes their front tires if they're really sliding into a corner. But it's so easy to just lose momentum quickly. These next-gen Cup Series cars are definitely momentum-based, but with this being a short track, it kind of takes it away from what we're used to seeing, these mile-and-a-half momentum tracks. Phoenix is very much a hybrid of what we see across the entire schedule here. It's hard to pass, but you're going to try very much so to get around these drivers early on in this race. Riding on board the back of the number 12 machine of Tommy Gossett, currently runs in 11th as we speak. 2 cars going side by side behind, Montanelli and Paget. Those 2 fighting for everything they got. A nice little 21 scheme for Paget. Good old Ward Burton scheme.
That's a good-looking car on the inside of the 27 of Alex Montanelli, who's trying to make the outside line work, and they're going to stay glued to each other's door all the way through turns 1 and 2 and back down the back straightaway. So good battle here in the battle for 12th and 13th position. What a night it's been so far, though, for Montanelli. Started 30th. He was one of those drivers who didn't take a time in qualifying, and he has marched all the way through the field, courtesy of avoiding accidents and having not yet pitted to gain 17 spots. He's the 3rd biggest mover in this field. Maybe losing one of them, though, because the 21 of Paget looked like he has the upper hand in that battle. And just in front of them, Braden Bakey dropping it back a bit. The 16 of Borborema shakes off a challenge. And look at the crossover by Gossett. He'll go high to low, carry that speed off of 4, and take a spot away from the 17. So Tommy Gossett trying to work his way back to the top 5 where he started this race.
Yeah, Gossett's doing a pretty solid job right here. Number 12th ranked car in the race, but he's definitely putting on the moves right now. Can we go back and talk a little bit about the guy who started on the pole, had his issues earlier in the race, 2 spins. Joseph, he's up into 18th, low of 32nd, high of 1st. He's right now smack dab in the middle of it, and he's trying to make up some moves as we speak.
Going to try to chip away at this deficit that he has unfortunately been tasked with. He is the 3rd highest runner right now of those who have pitted at some point in this race. He pitted on the most recent yellow, so he's got the freshest of tires. Chris Peffer also on the freshest of tires. Daniel Smallwood, the lead car who has pitted tonight, but he pitted 2 yellows ago, so his tire's about 8 laps not as new. So we'll see if that affects them, if this can turn into a long green flag run, and if you can kind of reap the full benefits of that additional tire life. It is a 3-car almost breakaway up front. Conklin has led every single lap tonight, make it 33 in charge, as lap number 33 falls to the wayside that time. Nicholas Vroman has been P2 throughout, despite the fact that he started second. The race leader wrecked out of this race. He just didn't get a good start. The 2-car took it away, and he's been the bridesmaid throughout. And then Daniel Naney.
Unreal.
23rd to 3rd. I mentioned the impressive night for Montanelli. Was only the 3rd biggest mover. Well, 2nd biggest is Brad Newman at plus 18. And the biggest is that man there, Daniel Naney, at plus 20 spots to get up to P3.
That is just unbelievable. I know he's taken advantage of some of the mistakes, some of the issues from other teams, other drivers in this race, but he's definitely made a case for himself. I mean, remember, he is the 23rd highest rated driver in this field, so it's kind of like the Cup Series again. any driver who is racing or rated last in the standings or close to it, they're still some of the best race car drivers on the face of this earth. And Daniel Nanny, he can win. He's in the same exact equipment as everybody here. You also got to remember, he might have had a mistake in qualifying. He started in 23rd. He is the 7th ranked driver in this field. Well, in 23rd, that was the last driver to qualify. So might have been a mistake from him in qualifying. This might be his true speed.
And just to show you what that range is, I mentioned Nick Vroman, the one with the lowest number in the field, right? The number 1, so at the top seed, he's got an I rating of 8,032. You go down to the lowest of I ratings, which is still plenty more than mine. Gregory Thompson, the lowest, 4,136. That's still a impressive number, Dylan, but it's almost half of that of Roman. So even in this top split, quite a variance in the I rating of some of the top names and the quote-unquote bottom names, at least for the way that the splits were divided tonight.
I'm almost at 2,000.
That's not bad. I don't know what mine is, to be honest. I'm gonna check.
You're just scared to share it, I think.
I'm gonna check right now.
Okay. I'll let you go. I'll let you cook.
The 4,000 look much more impressive. 2890.
Okay. Well, you probably have been doing this for a little bit longer than I have, so.
I can't remember the last time I did an official race either, to be honest.
I do like 5 a year maybe, and always finish second. So.
Well, I know the commentators race is coming up. The a little bit later this year, so maybe I'll have to hook the wheel back up, because that's kind of the one exception I make for embarrassing myself. Normally, I embarrass myself on the mic talking about PB&H sandwiches. That was a very Terry Radford line of me. But I'll embarrass myself maybe behind the wheel a little bit later on. Is on the move again and seemingly always in a battle. Every time we look, that 21 of Mark Padgett, this time under Borborema. It's a battle for the last spot in the top 10.
Yeah, it's a really good battle right here. They are just connected to each other right in front of the road, though. You're also seeing a bit of a hornet's nest. It's the same nest we've been seeing. It's just a little bit of an offspring of the fight that Gossett is in. Newman, Wetmore, Ensing, they just all can't get disconnected from each other, and it's making for some really good racing. Oh, look at front 13 and the 24, 13 and the 12, making a lot of contact. Oh, a big clear up front. So these cars are all fighting right in behind some big battles. Continue moving back. You see the 17 of Brandon Bike and Alex Montanelli. This is good. This is really good.
Everywhere you look, there's a battle as we continue on what has been the longest run of the night thus far. And in this battle for third, Daniel Naney has fallen off significantly of those top 2, and now he slides out of the top 3. First time we've seen the 7 go backwards, and it's at the hands of Jacob C. Schneider. He climbs his way into the top 5, or top 3, I should say, even for the first time tonight. Started in the number 4 spot, was very quiet through the first couple of runs. Maybe the 6 car is feeling it now, but he's got a 1.4 second gap up to race leader Conklin to close that gap behind them. How about the battle between Tommy Gossett's 12 and Tom Wetmore's 24? Winner to this gets P7, and the winner is the 12 car on the bottom. Give it to Gossett.
You see that big run that Ensing took in the back of Wetmore there? He tried to take advantage of a little bit of a slower entry into 1. And the 13, I feel like, smells blood in the water at this stage. He's really fast, but just all these side-by-side battles, it's impossible to kind of get by. It's one thing to catch. It's another thing to pass entirely, and Phoenix is not an easy track to do that whatsoever. Everyone from Joseph in the number 8, pretty much up to Tom Wetmore in the 24 machine, are under a blanket right now.
It is quite a battle. The gap between 7th place Gossett, and even he's pulling away just a tad from them. And I can go all the way back to Alex Montanelli in 16th. So that's almost 10 cars separated by less than 2 seconds right now. The midfield is where most of the action is on track right now, as Sean Conklin is cooking him, pulling away to 0.7 of a second and trying to continue to build on that.
Oh, yikes.
3 wide into turn 3. That was the 8 car, the aggressor. Joseph to the bottom. Maybe some frustration with how this race started. He is aggressive.
Oh, boy.
To the outside wall, as that was Brandon Bakey. Came up across the nose of Smallwood, went into the outside wall, and it is mid-pack mayhem here at Phoenix.
Brandon Bakey was almost cross-sectional when it came to how he was holding that steering wheel. It was supposed to go into that outside wall. He was supposed to be turned. He is so lucky to still be fighting in this battle as they go into 1-3 wide again. It's a lot more doable to go 3 wide here, but the 8 slides up, and the 8 gets into the left rear of Daniel Smallwood, and he almost sends him spinning, and spinning himself he almost did as well. So, man, the aggression level is really present from Joseph in this one.
So 2 close calls and a lap for the 5 car Daniel Smallwood, and neither of them have really been at his discretion. He's just kind of dealing with what's going on around him as that 17 car, Brandon Bakey, tries to claw back some of the lost ground. The 10 Chris Peffer going to lose a bit on the top side, but he'll stay alongside the 17. And that 5 machine of Daniel Smallwood going to go right back down and underneath Tom Wetmore. So Wetmore picked up some spots early in the run, has slid back a couple since then. Smallwood's not going to be able to clear this time, is trying to get away from all of it. Is that 21 Mark Paget? He watches the battle behind him as the 5 car is clear on the entrance to turn 1.
Clear, but not out of the woods necessarily yet. Wetmore in that 10, or excuse me, Pfeffer in that 10 gets slid up on Tom Wetmore in the 24. Wetmore gets a push from behind. That was Joseph. He is really not making friends out there on the racetrack, which I guess you don't really need, right? This isn't a league. This is a one-off race that you'll probably see these guys in the official sessions a lot throughout the year. Bakey slides up into Wetmore, opens up the door for Joseph. Wetmore not happy over the radio. 17's gonna be down low. 8 slides up high, almost split the middle, but the 27 of Montanelli just slides in behind. Great action. A little bit dramatic, though.
An apology from Bakey over the
Caution's out.
Caution will fly. Not where we were looking, but the 3 of Chris Wilhite is slow on the exit of turn number 4. So whatever happened involves the 3. It will break up the longest green flag run of the night, and it means we'll probably see the race leaders on pit road for the first time tonight. Let's take a look at what happened to the car that was scored at the time of the yellow flag in P19.
Just an easy, lazy slide right here. He doesn't get completely parallel at all. I'm surprised that iRacing's caution system picked that up, but I'm not.
Barney's strict tonight.
Barney is very strict. This is the second very strict call that Barney's given. You see, he came in a little bit hot. Maybe had that brake bias a little bit too much forward, which obviously will slide the car inwards a little bit, give a little bit of oversteer. But we join back to live pictures, and spot on, Evan Pasoko. Everyone should be coming down pit road. If you don't, you're a madman.
A unique pit road here at Phoenix where you enter it on the exit of turn number 2. The back half of those pit stalls are on the straight part of pit road. But look at all these drivers driving through the boxes. Try to shortcut that turn just a little bit. And because that the speeding penalties here on the service will be issued based on speed, and you can monitor that, unlike in the Cup Series where if you hug that corner a little bit too tight, that changes where your RPMs need to be and whatnot. Not necessarily the case here on the sim. So everyone's going to go through the boxes, try to save some time. They're going to go through the boxes on exit. Conklin fast enough to still be the top car as they come off of pit road. So Conklin going to defend successfully, 14.7 seconds in the box.
I love, and I know we talked about it, Phoenix, how they put so much money into the fan experience here, the garage area. It's very open. They really dive into it, right? Like, I know the racing is not everybody's cup of tea, but especially in that crescent, which is right inside of 3 and 4, where we're seeing it's awesome.
Awesome racetrack.
Yeah. Facility is top notch.
Yeah, this will be I think, my first time not going to the championship race at Phoenix since it moved there. So the Crescent, where the fan zone is, and there's activations all the time, is awesome. It's not necessarily just concession food, generic things. There's branded bars and branded restaurants, and it's a fun place to hang out, be around the cars, through practice and qualifying and the whole weekend. So it really is a fun weekend. Reminds me a lot facility-wise is, kind of how Homestead feels when you can, get close to the access, and it's another nice facility. But Phoenix is beautiful if you ever have a chance to go there in the real world. And there's one thing that I love in particular, Dylan, about the Phoenix Raceway, and that is that the main bar sponsor on the infield is Mike's Hard Lemonade, and I can't get that at other racetracks. So you can betcha I am there.
Why is our 20-year-old producer screaming "woo" in the background?
I can't speak for him, but
I don't know. He has been to Australia.
O'Reilly Zone. I'll go get me some mics, and I will be missing out on the fun this weekend, but tune it in from home, as the NASCAR Cup Series Championship is Sunday afternoon. Of course, titles on the line for all three of NASCAR's national touring divisions this weekend at Phoenix, and sometimes there's more than just those three. Is there? We seeing ARCA or anything racing this weekend too on a Thursday or Friday?
Absolutely.
I know that's happened in the past.
Yeah, Friday we'll see the ARCA Menards West Series take to the track at 11:30 a.m. local time, and then later that night, I think it's 7 o'clock, the Craftsman Truck Series finale happens. Xfinity Series is at 4 o'clock local time the next day, and then Cup is going to be, I think, a little bit later local time, but nonetheless, looking forward to it. It's my last weekend of the season, so excited to just not travel every single weekend, every single day of my life, it feels, but
enjoy some time off, and don't worry, February will be around before you know it. Pace car off it in. It's the all Mustang front row again, and he is still so good on the starts. Sean Conklin, early jump, big advantage as he rockets out to the lead.
Yeah, he gets that advantage. You're on those fresh tires. They're not exactly up to snuff at this point, but you've got the easiest direction to keep going. You don't have to worry about traffic in behind. The 8 does, though. There's a lot of moving up to the outside by Joseph, who made up some more spots from that pit road in, out, and during time. They all spread out. Still great racing here at Phoenix.
It took so long for these drivers to finally get a little bit of space between them, and even that didn't put an end to the contact, the slide jobs, the 3 wide, and all that. And oh, that's going to be a big mess at a turn number 2. Sideways in front of the field, the yellow is out for Ensing. Somehow there are only 3 cars who come to a stop on the bottom. Man, I saw that 13 get sideways off the turn, or it wasn't even the 13, it was up the road from him, I think. 26 at Henry, and when that thing hooked right, I thought we were looking at a dozen cars piling in. There's how Ensing gets hooked down to the bottom, but he was kind of it. This field is so lucky that that wasn't a 30-car mess.
Well, I can't use your line about PB making some jam happen, but
it was close. You tried.
Yeah, I tried, but
PB
that was
H sandwich.
PB and H. That was, I think we could have done something there, because it made a few drivers' arms and legs maybe right there go jelly a bit as they saw the incident in front, tried to avoid it. But you are right. In that whole mess, the fact that so few drivers were really involved with as narrow as that straightaway is, I don't know if it's a back straight. I guess it is a back straight, right? It is, but that's a big hit for the 31, and how about another hit? I feel like that is potentially gonna be, it's not gonna be race over unless he doesn't want to get it fixed, but that's some major damage.
Yeah, it's tough, and we talked earlier about the parameters of this race, the open setups, and also the fact that there are no faster pairs available as you take a look at Austin Brooks. His Camry ain't looking too bad down there on the box. The 21's in as well. Henry, Maguire, Watson, Ensing, Smallwood, Fitzgerald, Paget, Brooks, Montanelli, all down pit road. But it's that little bit of damage or those kind of medium impact accidents that over time are going to start to wear on the race car, and eventually you lose enough pace that we'll see some drivers kind of bow out of this one as it goes. So with each incident, in theory, less and less cars going to continue to roll on from that point on. However, still pretty impressed 50 laps in that all 32 cars who started this race are still in it. Now, Derek Heitman in 32nd is 10 laps down. Alex Montanelli just now falling a lap down in 31st as his trip down pit road is an extended stay for some repairs, but 30 cars on the lead lap, not too bad so far.
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty impressive. I know we've had these early incidents which have helped keep the field bunched up together, but nonetheless, it's been fairly impressive. There's been a lot of wrecks, but not too many that have been so damage-inducing. Obviously, Derek Heitman spent 10 laps getting repairs done, and he's way back in the field. And it looks like Alex Montanelli, excuse me, is going to have similarly things happening to him with being a lap now 2 laps down. So, but everyone else, top 30, is on that lead lap right now. It's impressive.
And the racing has been good through the midfield, right? I think the only downside the drivers will tell you is the fact that they wish there weren't so many yellow flags to this point. But aside from that, I mean, the action's been good. There's been passing opportunities, which is always, maybe a concern at a shorter track like this with this current generation of Cup car. But it's been exciting to watch thus far. And with a long way to go, the action, I don't think, going to slow anytime soon. And Dylan, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this, but you talk about Mustangs being up at the front of the field as they have been all night. You see the new Ford Performance Mustang Dark Horse that's coming to the Cup Series next year, unveiled as the new body style for the blue oval. Looking nice. Excited to see that on track next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, it's NASCAR fan knowledge, right? That's a beautiful looking body. I always still prefer our Chevy Camaro ZL1s because always been a Chevy fan, but those new Ford Mustang bodies do look pretty mean. They do look pretty tough, and I think they're an upgrade on the look compared to what the Mustangs are this year, but we'll see exactly what the performance is going to be. For my hopes, I hope they're not performing well.
They look good no matter what, and so does the current generation Mustang of Conklin because he has been in control all night long. Another good jump, but the battle is on for second. The 9 of Brad Newman to the outside of Nicholas Vroman. Is he going to clear him off of turn 2? Yes, he does. So damaged front end and all. Newman to a race-high P2.
Yeah, what a good move from Brad Newman right there, who himself has been fairly aggressive in this race. It was an aggressive move to try and get there. Now it's a chase after Sean Conklin, who, by the way, Evan, 15 years old, is the leader of this race.
Incredibly impressive for Sean Conklin to be doing this against some of the top talent. And
future William Byron?
Maybe, and you talk about the fact that he's the number 2 seed too, so he's got a pretty good I rated in his own right, 7,534. That's not just a kid who jumped on here in the last year and happened to be good. He's been at this for quite some time.
Right. Yeah, no, that's extremely impressive. He's doing a great job. And, hey, maybe one day we're talking about him. Rick Allen's talking about him in the same vein that he's talking about William Byron going for his first NASCAR Cup Series championship this year. And what's the famous line? He started his career on a computer. So, Willie B, Sean Conklin, kind of, paving the road. Oh, there's a wreck in the back.
Spin and a yellow. I was looking towards the back where Derek Heitman had spun, and now there's another spin. Chris Peffer to the outside wall. The DeWalt number 10 Toyota goes around. Yellow flag is out there. A lot of radio discussion. Not happy with Peffer coming down the hill after the accident. Maybe collecting some additional cars. Let's see. On the bottom, big contact there. Oh, the overcorrect, and then look out, nowhere to go. That was the 29 who slammed on in as Luis Salmaso gets a big shunt into the corner. 31 car also going to pick up damage. That is
That's going to be a heck of an angle.
Who was upset on the radio, and we're back under the yellow.
Yeah, Lawrence Shaughnessy was a little bit upset about what he felt like was a lack of holding the brakes there. for Chris Pfeffer. I don't think that was the situation. It was just so quick. He overcorrected. Then he tried to lock it down and save it. But by that point, you're going 120 miles per hour into a fairly sharp, flat corner. Yeah, it's going to cause some calamity when traffic's coming up behind. So another caution, and that was probably the biggest catastrophe, biggest collision of them all. Now we've got a little bit of split pit strategy. Some drivers who were in the back of the field have decided to head down pit road. Interesting call here. I guess it doesn't hurt, right? If you're in the back, you want to lose a few spots, doesn't matter. Just get some fresh tires. You haven't had that many laps on the tires you've had, but there's no limit.
Yeah, the hope is if you're at the back, I'd give up the 3-4 positions to have a little bit more fuel, a little bit better tires, and then I hope, hey, this race breaks out into a long green flag run, we go to green flag pit cycles, and all of a sudden, I'm the best car on track for that run. That's kind of the idea, is that not a lot of risk. The highest end potential is very good, so why not? And that's why you'll almost always see cars come down to the pit lane. Obviously, those that evolve, they're always coming down to get damage repaired, but if you're at the back, just pit. Anyways, not going to hurt you at all. And again, especially because there are unlimited tire sets, which may be unique because in a lot of the leagues and other of the top series in the NASCAR ladder, tire sets are restricted. Of course, they're restricted in real life as well, but here in this NIS Open calendar, you can take as many sets of tires as you want. So I think that also inflates why so many cars come down pit road so frequently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what I feel about it strategy-wise, because it does remove some of the chess maneuvers you can put forth in a race like this, especially a longer race. But hey, it keeps the racing exciting. It keeps it, you know, more aggression-based. Is that how we want to see all these cautions? Probably not, but still a long way to go. Just keep the car in one piece, be there at the end, and you got a shot.
Yeah, I think back to the Bristol 500 that we covered here not that long ago on RaceSpot and the iRacing Esports Network. And again, the NIS Open calendar has been running throughout that for all of these races, but you know, that was the last time we covered it here for a top split broadcast. And I was thinking 500 laps of Bristol, this could be a long race. That race didn't take much more than 2 hours, 20 minutes, even with a couple of yellows. The race pace for this one, not really that quick. I mean, 70 laps about to be completed in this race. That still puts us shy of a quarter distance and already growing on 45 minutes from the green flag. So this could turn into one of the longer races on the stopwatch if you keep with this stop, start, stop, start. And, you know, we talked about, well, the more yellows you get, the more cars that'll be damaged. In theory, they kind of fall out of competitive form. Certainly that's true, but every car who started this race is still in it, with the exception of Derek Heitman, who has gone behind the wall. So there's still lots of cars out there. I don't think we're done with the excitement quite yet. Conklin has led, again, every single lap tonight. He'll lead number 69, this time by the stripe. It was Newman who got the better jump that Vroman took away second. On the last restart, it's a role reversal for them. Newman's P2. Vroman gets the inside in third. And as Conklin gets a jump, Vroman pounces on Newman, trying to take P2 back.
Doing it as well as he can, but Newman gets a little bit squirrely mid-corner, recorrects it, gonna have an advantage down this straightaway against the one. Comes down low, will he send it into the corner, late on the brakes, assertive in the move, gets it done, now just keep it stable and out of the wall. The 8 slots in behind the 1.
Jackson lied, but not for long. Right back down to the bottom goes Joseph. Inside of the 1 car of Vroman. That battle's going to be for third. Give it to him for now. So all of a sudden, Vroman looks so good off of the restart. He drops another spot. P4 is the worst off he's been so far.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see this entire field. Again, side by side, all the way from 6th on back. You see Daniel Nanny right there, has that 17 machine of Brandon Bikey, who has been very involved in a few ways right there as well. Of course, the 16 of JR Babarema in that Toyota Camry, trying to make a move. Can't do it. 17 had to overcorrect into the corner.
in not a good corner for the 17 of Brandon Bakey. It's going to allow the 24, Tom Wetmore to get through on the bottom. Wetmore back up to P8, try to use some fresh tires to make up some of the ground lost on the last longer green flag run. And the 20 and the 17 are
Look at Newman
side up front. Yeah, Newman damage it all.
Oh!
There. Took it from Conklin. Conklin wants it back. A heck of a shot. The context there is Newman hit him in the door. Dillon in 1 and 2 to make the pass. Conklin maybe with a little bit of a payback bump. But in the end, for the first time tonight, new race leader. Brad Newman, it's his field now off of 2.
Well, I will say Conklin immediately apologized, said he missed his brake marker, and he did not mean to get in that deep. Was it payback, or was that to save face? I'm going to go with save face right there.
Yeah,
I don't think there was any... Yeah, right? I don't think it was malicious intent, but maybe a little bit less of a care for what the back of that number 9 machine looks like. The front doesn't look good, and why not the back?
Look at the single file train down the back straightaway as Brad Newman has taken the lead in this race after not qualifying and starting in 24th position. Impressive runs throughout the field. Joseph, who started on pole, didn't lead a single lap because he got spun at the end of lap number 1. Getting all the way to the back of the field, he's driven his way to 3rd. So lots of good storylines inside of your top runners.
Yeah, a lot of good storylines right here. A lot of drivers who have made up tons of spots, and we're wrecking, or are we saving it on the back straight? What a save out of the wall. But that is a ton of positions lost right there for the number 12 car of Tommy Gossett. Oh, goodness, that was an incredible save. Gossett started this race in 5th. We've said the name a lot tonight. He's been really strong. But he kind of got into it a little bit with the 28 of Josh Schaffner, his own fault.
Yeah, the 12 car locked it up. He was 14th at the moment of contact. He now rides in 28th, so he got sent halfway back down through the field and now has a long way to go. Tommy's been up and down a couple times tonight after starting this race in the number 5 position. Side by side through the center, returns 1 and 2 there, and it's the car on the outside, the 20 machine of Cody Smith trying to challenge. Behind them, that 28 machine, the dark black and orange entry. That's the 28 car, Josh Schaffner. I haven't talked much about him. It's been a quiet night for the driver who started in 20th, but he's trying to climb his way to the top 10.
Yeah, trying to do it right now and doing a solid job of it. Of course, he just made contact with Gossett, but he was running strong on the outside, kept his line, and he's still trying to make more of a middle groove through 3 and 4, I should say 1 and 2 work. We'll see his entry here on the outside into 3 and 4, and obviously it was pretty good. He got single file, and he keeps it moving now across the stripe.
That 7 of Daniel Naney is in the middle of all of this. He's another one of those big, impressive movers. We've touched on it before, up 17 spots. That's bested only by Newman's plus 23, who leads the race actively. And I don't know, is it more impressive that Daniel Naney started 23rd, drove up to P6, and that car qualified 23rd? I don't know if it's indicative of speed. He did not put down a time in practice, I should say, so that 28.8 Dillon could be more so missed the mark in qualifying. Not really, it's, 23rd place speed, but either way, he's had to do the difficult job of driving through the field, but maybe a small lull, and temporary, I'm sure at that, for the drivers inside the top 10. Nobody on top of each other at the moment. Well, some side-by-side action look like back in the teens, but for the moment, your leaders trying to get their legs under them and get some more green flag laps behind them. That one car I saw on the bottom was that blue 26 of PB Henry trying to get under the 30 Miller Bonds.
Yeah, PB Henry giving us no shortage of things to talk about. He was getting very loose, but was able to control it just enough not to get into anyone's quarter panel. He slides up and washes up against the outside wall. It's going to lose some momentum there because of it, but regains it going down this dog leg and the short front stretch heading into one. You see and you notice how the lines have kind of evolved. Everybody was trying to hug that yellow inside line through 1 and 2, and now they swoop in probably, I like to say 4 or 5 grooves there are you can run. They go from groove 1 to maybe groove 2, 2.5 on entry, and they don't really come down too low. There's still a car's width that's right there. Another car can fit right there on corner exit. So I think the lines are changing ever so slightly as this race goes on. The grip and the rubber levels are different.
Newman not able to run away with this thing up front, but has certainly opened things up on Conklin, who is in an unfamiliar position after having led the opening 72 laps of this race consecutively. He's not used to a little bit of dirty air and not dictating the line, and has handled it pretty well. Sometimes we'll see cars look pretty dominant up front, and then the second they get back in traffic, the wheels kind of fall off. Not the case for the two of Conklin. Both he and Joseph pretty even. That next group of 4 behind them, Nick Vroman in 4th, Jacob Schneider in 5th, Daniel Naney 6th, and J.R. Borborema in the number 7 spot, and it continues to stretch on from there. But not really surprised that this is the current ebb of the flow of the race, right? Normally you'll see a couple yellows early, people trying to get settled in, people wanting to be aggressive. At some point, though, the race has to have a moment where it kind of stretches things out, right? You can't win the race in the opening 100. I mean, admittedly, you can't win it in the opening 200 either. So at some point, you just got to log some laps. You got to keep the car clean. You got to get to a pit stop. Start getting to the point where you can go backwards on the strategy and start lining up your next pit stop with where it's going to have you at the end of the race as opposed to where it's going to have you currently. And I think this middle portion of the race is where we'll see some of the longer runs of the night.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like every race has a few different portions, a few different segments. Usually it's that middle portion or getting into it that brings a period of, okay, guys, let's get settled in. We got excited at the start, but we do have to make it the rest of the way. It is one of the shortest track lengths in terms of mile-long races and overall lengths of the race mileage-wise. 312 miles, so it definitely leads to a little bit of I think what's the word I'm looking for, Evan? Tiredness, you know, tired eyes, a little bit of just not sharpness. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, man. Help me out. I'm phoning a friend.
Like a little bit of tunnel vision. You get not sleepy, but you're just not sure.
It's grueling. It really is grueling.
It's tough. It's not the the physical exertion and the heat of being in the real car, but mentally you're focused just as hard, and eventually you just can't be 110% focused every single corner. Some people can, not everybody. And up front, maybe somebody who maybe didn't pay attention for a half a second was that Nina Newman, because all of a sudden, new race leader again, the 2 car.
Oh, he's losing another spot.
Him up on the entry to 1 and 2, cleared him pretty quick, and I wonder if Newman just pushed a lot early in the run to get the lead, Dylan, and if he's paying the price now, 40 laps into this run, and now the 9 looks terrible all of a sudden.
Yeah, 9 looks really bad. Look at how loose he is. He's going into pit road. What happens?
The 9 car was leading this race no more than a lap ago, and now Brad Newman pitting.
What?
Only having been out there for 38 laps, this can't be scheduled.
There's no way it can be scheduled, and you can't really do much to the car to change it off of what it already is. Got a lot of questions, not sure what the mindset is here. He obviously knew something was wrong with the car. He quickly came down pit road. He knew he was losing it. He's probably, he's going a lap down, but he is coming out of the pits right now, so he should have the speed as long as it stays green to get back going, and maybe in 15 or so laps time to, now this is a long pit exit here for him, so he's half a lap back at this point. We'll see what the speed is.
It's a tough go for Newman. The service itself seemed pretty uneventful, so I'd be really curious to find out what the decision was there for Newman to make the pit stop then, because he is the only car a lap down currently, so a yellow would get it back onto the lead lap as one car grazed the fence, and instead of showering us with sparks, I think it showered us with some sand for being out here in the desert. Saw it fly off of the outside wall there. But big swing in this race for Brad Newman.
Yeah, that's a huge swing for Newman, and he's been fast. I really have no idea what was the mindset there. I'd love to talk to him if we get a chance to after this race in some fashion. Obviously, we won't really be able to interview any of these drivers with it being an official race, not a league. Some of these drivers didn't even know that they were going to be a part of a broadcast, but hey, it's what you get when you get into an iRacing official race. You never know who you're going to race against. You never know what studs are going to be talking about you on RaceSpotTV.
That's a bold. I'll let you have that one because otherwise it's going to be a long 217.
I need an ego boost here.
Well, the driver chat in Sim was talking about, some of them don't necessarily know what the special events broadcast schedule is. They're just in this race, particularly on this night, because it works for them and they're in the top split, but enjoying to find out that they are live on air, and I'm sure some of them listen in. I could never do that. I feel like that'd be pretty miserable, but for
I did that.
To join us while being in the race, we welcome you and hope that all of you, of course, tuning in, if you're friends and family of those in this race or just fans of the service, are having a good time as we are almost 100 laps in to this iRacing Phoenix finale. The championship race on the NASCAR Cup calendar is the final race of the 2023 NASCAR iRacing Series Open schedule. Full-length race here, and if you've missed the start, you missed a lot, but the good news is there is a long way to go as we still have over 215 laps left on the docket, side by side, off of turn number 4 there and across the stripe of the car on the inside, the white and red 17 of Brandon Bakey, to the outside, the black and yellow 13 of Corey Ensing. It's a fight for P9.
Yeah, this is a great fight right here between Ensing and the company he abides by. Ensing has been involved a lot. Bakey's been involved a lot in these fisticuffs in this one. 17-13 car. Makes for some good fun. I do really like the sharpness of both schemes, where they're fairly simple, but you can spot them from a mile away. As you see the clouds start to cover over this Phoenix Raceway in Avondale, Arizona. It's on the outskirts of Phoenix, as you see a big block down the inside. Gonna have to slow it down. That's Brad Newman. Oh, goodness. A spin, some contact. Was that because Newman took him 3 wide?
So it goes from bad to worse in all of this. Drama enough, and then Newman contact with the...
I wouldn't say anything, actually. He didn't make any contact.
Yeah, he was on the bottom. It looked like it, but it was the 11 who just missed the corner, got the 30, and got the 28. So that was the near wreck there. Newman just in and around it.
Yeah.
He's going to try to unlap himself on the fresher tires. Again, he might be able to do so because he's got about 40 lap better tires than everybody else, but then they'll just have the better tires. It reverses. I think his concern is just staying as that best of the rest, the first car lap down, and honestly, I think hoping for a yellow to get back on track, unless that early pit stop is within a fuel window to where that's not going to count as an extra stop, right? If he can make the numbers work and say everybody else has to do 2 stops to get to the end of the race, well, if his 1 stop already can count as one of those 2 and he's only got to make 1 more, maybe not terrible. Not necessarily race winning, but not terrible. We'll just see how the strategy plays out. We haven't really got an indication of what these drivers want to do in terms of tires and fuel because we haven't got to a green flag pit cycle just yet.
Right, he's around 6.5 seconds off the leader right here, so if he can get back to the lead lap, that would be awesome. It's just going to be really difficult. The harder he fights, you see all these cars right in front of him, the harder he fights, the more difficult it's going to be to, just get around everybody, to make some fast laps, and these tires are going to fall off fairly quickly. You see the 20 car right now trying to make some moves. That's Cody Smith around the outside of the 17 and Brandon Bakey as they head into 3 and 4. Smith on the outside, which it really gets tight on the exit there. You always feel like you got a lot of speed coming to that stripe. You see it in your windshield, but the moment you see it and you start to hit the accelerator and you say, why am I so much faster than the guy on the inside? Well, it's because you're about to hit the wall on your right side.
Yeah, that's an indication. Look at this group here. This has been one of the calmer runs of the night, and then you look up and it looks like a restart.
Yeah.
The way that these cars are lined up 2 by 2, they're going to come off of 4 and complete lap number 105. This is all for position number 7 on back. Wetmore will get passed for the moment by Daniel Smallwood on the bottom of the racetrack, and then you've got Smith and Bakey, Price and Ensign all in the mix. I mean, this is a heck of a pack from P7 all the way through P13. That is 7 race cars separated by less than 1 second.
Yeah, it's great. Under a blanket, we like to call it, as these tires start to wear off. The 3 got loose. 21 wants to go underneath, but some good action, good fighting. Chris Wilhite actually apologized for getting loose to everyone in behind and in front for getting loose, giving everybody a scare. A battle for first is now commencing with Joseph and Sean Conklin. Lapped car in front of them. That's going to be Lawrence Shaughnessy. He is so far the last one on the lead lap. I'm sure he's going to get involved. You know, there's something else to bring up here, Evan, as Joseph gets loose. It's the fact that because this is an official race, safety rating does matter.
It does, and that affects safety rating and, of course, your performance, the I rating as well. So there are stakes outside of a point structure in a private league or a championship in terms of the eNASCAR ladder, which some of these drivers have dabbled in before. But yeah, you're right. There are consequences to your safety rating for incidents you're involved in, and of course your I rating for a combination of that and your finishing position in this race, to then keep those numbers high and continue to compete in these top split levels throughout the rest of the calendar year. Joseph, we've talked a lot about the 8 car tonight. Started on pole, didn't lead a single lap, got spun after contact with Conklin, went to the back of the field, drove his way back up, and your pole sitter wants redemption, but there's contact there. Leaned on the left rear of Conklin, and it was Joseph who paid the price. Got sideways on the exit at the corner, lost a car length, has to reset and try it again, but he is certainly the aggressor in this battle as he wants to get his first glimpse of the race lead.
He hasn't just been the aggressor in the battle, he's been the aggressor in the war that is this race at Phoenix Raceway. Joseph, 2 spins. He's also gotten a lot of physical contact here out on the track. And look at this, the 2 really slides up, gets tight, into the wall, the 8 into the wall, into the back of the 2. I think that was just too aggressive right there from Joseph. Didn't recognize that the 2 was sliding up a bit too tight and just ran out of room, ran out of space, and now he's under attack from Nicholas Vroman.
That's what we get for looking, I guess. He had raced his way up there, and then all of a sudden, 2 maybe unnecessary moves, right? I mean, he seems to be the better car. Forced the issue.
Catching is one thing.
Contact on the left rear, and then into the back bumper there. He's lucky he didn't wreck himself entirely.
Yeah, but the 9 of Brad Newman is right there trying to get his lap back as well. So we'll see if that's something that will happen as we go back to the 5 and the 16. Daniel Smallwood making the move on J.R. Borborema. This is for P6 in this race, but a large gap stands between Smallwood and Daniel Naney. Jacob Schneider in the top 4. They're right now within a second of each other, trying to race for this lead. And of course, Newman trying to get back in the lead lap.
And Newman, remember, he's able to drive by these cars because he's got better tires. The 9 car last pitted 20 laps ago. Your leader's 60. So there's a 40 lap difference there. But we're going to remind you that 9 is not for position like it was earlier. We take a step back and look at the ongoing battle through the midfield. The 20 car of Cody Smith trying to lead this group and wants to get away from all of it. But William K. Price on the move, another driver who we haven't talked a ton about, but the Optic Gaming Chevy trying to crack the top 9 underneath that 20 car.
I think this is when in the run, you're going to start to see the crossover from the cars that have saved to the cars that have been going hard the entire way. You're going to start to see those cars that saved, they're running those similar lap times, but everyone that went hard, well, they are going to start to drop off like a rock. It opens the door up for the 23 of William K. Price to move into P9 with a buzzing pack of cars right in behind, single file. It looks like we're going for a little bit of short track racing, but on ice. You know what I'm talking about. Palo Ono and such.
Yeah, just drop a hip check reference now, and we've got the ice hockey references covered. I haven't dropped the one yet. That's one of my favorites, so somebody's got to door somebody, and we'll keep...
Body check,
Yeah.
All that.
I like hip check, because, you get somebody with the right rear fender, you're kind of...
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Get the elbow up.
Exactly. And certainly elbows up in the midfield here. I mean, this is where it was on the last run. It's where it is again now. Chris Wilhite's 3 now, going to go into the 20. So certainly seems like Cody Smith, the man in the hot seat right now, under fire. 3 car not going to get clear that time. Cody's doing everything he can to just be smooth up top, but certainly going the wrong direction, having seen Price clear him, Wilhite clear him, and now if you're that 20 of Smith, almost that 3 car all the way through.
Man, if Chris Wilhite's name was a little bit sounding different, I could have said that Smith's trying to be smooth with Wilhite with it. I don't know. You knew what I was trying to do. A bit of a slide up the track. Let's just ignore that I just tried to be cool there.
Like
Good.
I said, long
Good.
race. You can swing and miss a couple times.
Yeah, you strike out 4 times, you get that 5th at bat, you hit a home run. The 21 almost goes around off the hood of Tommy Gossett. And Jacob Klein, the 22 driver, the 22 says just as that happened, I think we're done with yellows in this race. Almost completely proven wrong there. That would have been an in-radio driver curse instead of a commentator's curse.
Listen, I am not going to say blasphemous things like we are done with the yellows in this race. I do think that it is the time of the race where we're most likely to get a green flag pit cycle through pit stops. But I would not put money on no more yellows for the rest of the night. Have you seen the way these guys are driving?
Nah, they're driving like gentlemen.
Debatable. Maybe some more than others. There's a slap to the outside wall off of 2. That was the 3 of Wilhite, who knocked the wall down almost, and it was more so getting it off the wall that cost him the time. The 19 of Fitzgerald there to collect the pieces, slides underneath, and he enters the top 10. The 19 car started this race up in 8th position. He's trying to work his way back through the front as, again, they've all been able to dispose of Cody Smith and will fight out for those final spots in the top 10 amongst each other.
Yeah, they're trying to get organized right here, and pretty much from 4th on back, it's 4th on back through the top 10. It's pretty much single file. You got some gaps between everybody, but it's just outside the top 10 where you start to see the craziness and the wildness going on as Chris Wilhite sees Tommy Gossett just slide underneath him and make the move. The 3, will he try a switchback here down the backstretch? I think he might have let off the throttle a tiny bit as they dive into 1. A bit of a deceiving angle. You want to take it a little bit more aggressively than you absolutely can because it gets tight very quickly. The radius is a lot tighter than you expect. So you come in there thinking, hey, this looks like I can take a lot of speed into it, kind of just ride the banking, but it keeps on turning to that dog leg. It never ends, it feels like. So easy to get tight, easy to get up into the marbles and lose a ton of time.
That margin is very thin, and again, when you're talking about 312 laps in this race, that means you're going to be going into and out of a corner each, if you count entries and exits, 1,248 times over the course. Into 1, out of 2, into 3, out of 4. That's 1,248 opportunities to miss it by a half a foot and go into the wall, or be a little bit too aggressive on the throttle and nearly spin the car out. I mean, that's
all it takes is once.
Yeah, that's why we talk about, the challenge. Yes, it's not a real car. You're not in danger. It's not the temperatures. You get all that. But from the mental aspect, it's very taxing. I'm not going to go all the way and say just as, although some drivers who have done real world and sim racing say it's a little bit more mentally taxing because you kind of overthink and have to make up for the lack of that seat of your pants feeling that you get in the real car with visuals and kind of audio cues, and if you hear your tires slipping and sliding. So it ain't no joke to get through a race like this without even the smallest of missteps, let alone missing a corner, hitting the wall, getting some damage, which we've seen a handful of the top cars do thus far.
Yeah, it's very easy to do it, and we talked a little bit about that tunnel vision, right? As these runs go on, you start to see smaller mistakes, and it's not necessarily because the car performs worse when those tires start to shed off all its rubber and start to get down almost to the core, if you want to say it that way, but it's as these runs go on, and you just start to... that repetition, it's so important to keep your mind focused the entire way. I'm sure some of these guys, especially in the top 10 who don't have many running around them, are thinking to themselves about things that have nothing to do with racing. They almost black out. I mean, I know it's dangerous sometimes if you do this while driving the car. You start to think about something, then you're wait a second, how'd I get here? 5 seconds later, I don't remember taking this bend. It happens in racing a lot, and part of the challenge is keeping yourself so focused, and where yes, you want to depend on your reactions and what you're used to and what you're comfortable with. And as you see him move down here, that was a bit brash and a good block by Daniel Naney for P5. But as you go on through a run, that lack of concentration starts to show its piece. We'll see if they can stay concentrated going 3 wide into this corner. Naney gets tight, the 22 above, a lap down, notices it, and then pulls out just a little bit to let them get through the corner. 32, I should say, could have forced that.
Yeah, that's where those decisions will come into play all night long, is you can force the issue. Do you want to? When is it a good time to do so? And when's a good time to just let it go? Again, this is the battle for 5th and 6th position. Small with the advantage at the stripe at that time. And in fact, he'll get all the way clear as they head off to turn number 1. So the 5 car continues a pretty consistent night towards the front. ChevyLiners.com entry has been in some contact earlier tonight, but again, has done a good job of getting that track position back, keeping the race car clean, and staying in competitive form. That 7 and 80, of course, had gotten all the way up to the top 3 positions in this race, and has actually been on a bit of a slip, having lost some positions since he peaked at that point. Just as easy as that battle ends, another one decides to go at it. The 12 of Gossett under the 17 of Brandon Bakey, this one for P7.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun to watch in this top 10 battle, but these cars have re-met each other at this point in the race. Brandon Bakey, Tommy Gossett, I feel like they've been connected with each other all night. Maybe not in location on track, but and how they both are driving their race. If one starts to fall off, I feel like both will. Fitzgerald trying to make a move on William K. Price, very big on preservation. Fitzgerald will slide up in front of Price, and I don't know if that was anything about preservation for Fitzgerald. He said, my tires are going anyway. Why not throw a little bit more stress on them? It gets me a move. Gets a little bit loose, turns around with that front end a little bit too much, and got it recorrected. He is flying pretty fast right now.
On the move as some of these drivers, again, 80 laps into this run, longest of the night by a wide margin, are trying to reap the benefits of maybe that foresight. Remember, we had the conversation under the most recent yellow. Why are cars in the back coming down and pitting? Because this is what you wanted. You wanted it to go green to be able to use those tires to your advantage, and I think the best example of that, we'll continue to watch this battle, but Daniel Smallwood in P5, he's one of those cars who topped off. It was only 6 laps since the last yellow when everybody else had agreed to come down and pit right. It was pretty unanimous. He gave up that track position. He was at the back anyways, came down, pitted for more tires and fuel. So he only has 6 laps more fuel, 6 lap better tires than everybody else. That's allowed him to drive all the way to P5. Other drivers have had success as well. You've had Austin Fitzgerald to be able to drive up through the field. The 19 car you're looking at now on the better tires has been able to drive past the likes of Bakey and past the likes of Price on older tires. And it's not a trump card. 6 lap better tires doesn't mean you're just going to automatically get the spots, right? You can see Bakey and Price putting up a fight, but Fitzgerald eventually, I think, getting the upper hand. So many drivers taking advantage of that strategy decision the last time we were on pit road, and reaping the benefits now because many of them have climbed into the top 10.
Oh, look at that. JR Barbarema is coming down pit road. I was just going to talk a bit about Brad Newman. He came in lap 92. He's 40 laps on this stint right now. He's gained probably just about 18, 20 seconds on the leaders from when he came down pit road. So he's still a good bit back, 23 seconds off the lead. Of course, as long as these leaders keep going down the way they're going, they're staying out, I should say, then yeah, Newman will catch them, especially if we stay through a green flag pit cycle. But I just fear for Newman that caution doesn't fall the way he wants it. If that's a green flag race winning strategy, I don't see it. Honestly, I think that's a let's catch a break at some point, or I feel so loose with this car, I need something to change my luck. I need some clean air. I need to get out of this fight. Then sure, not too bad of a decision, I guess, but I just don't think it was the right strategy because it looked like the first sign of faltering, he decided it was over. Look at that, up into the outside wall. Big overshoot into the corner by Matt Hollaback. He apologized immediately. He said straight as it happened, I overshot that. That's completely my bad. He's coming into the pits now to repair some damage, but he can't turn the car. He's struggling.
Yeah, really struggling to get the car to pit road as Chris Wilhite is down pit road. Hollabaugh, able to get down to the pit lane without further incident. No yellow, we stay green. And I think the reason why it's going to be such a difficult race for Newman to win is just the strategy numbers, right? And be warned, Dylan, I'm going to attempt some math here, right? 86 laps since the race leaders last pitted, 174 laps to go in this race. So 260 was when we restarted this race. If you want to make this on a two-stopper, you're going to have to average 86 laps per run. We're there now, right? 86 laps into the run. So we're going to see these leaders come down pit road. The challenge then lies with Newman, and how much of a leeway do you have on that on fuel? He pitted 47 laps ago and has 173 laps in this race. So he's already done that one pit stop, right? I said the only way he saves this is if that pit stop isn't a bonus. So if everybody else is on a two-stopper, if that early stop for him can count as one of his two, he's got a chance. Well, that means that he's going to have to average runs of, doing the math, 110 laps. So he's going to have to go 110 laps on two runs. That's what he needs to do to be able to one-stop the rest of this race.
Not necessarily. Let me explain. He came down pit road on lap 92. Okay, and now I see what you're saying.
Okay. The calculator out to make sure I wasn't just spewing either.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all, but
gaslighting.
I am, but I'm trying to think. Even if he doesn't have to worry about the two-stop strategy, I mean, it's going to be... Yeah, I still don't get it.
Instead of an 86-lap run, an 86-lap run, and an 86-lap run, he'd have to do a 40, a 110, and a 110, essentially.
That's impossible.
That's just weird.
Yeah.
So that's why I still seem to think that something had to have happened. I don't know if we'll get a definitive answer admittedly on if these cars can go 110 laps on fuel until Newman gets to that number, because I don't see any reason why, Conklin and any of those other cars
they shouldn't try.
The normal two-stop strategy would have to go that far.
I don't know if it was me trying to think I was a bit smarter than you because it took you so long to come up with that 110 when I got there in just 2 seconds.
I kept dividing 220 by 1, and I was like, why is that not working? I kept hitting 1 instead of 2 just to get the number correct.
So what? 220 divided by 1, bud, is 220.
Divided by 2, I was just hitting the button. The intent was correct. It was
man.
The screen.
220 divided by 2 is easy.
There's a lot going on. The production feed's going on.
You're not producing.
I've got the timing screen on, and it's bases loaded top 8 in Game 5 of the World Series. So there's a lot going on, plus the calculator into my hand, okay? There's a lot going on.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
That he needs to get to if he's going to one-stop it to the end of the race.
That's fair. I don't want to talk baseball. I'm still upset, all right?
That's fair.
Go Phillies.
Big out in the top 8 there.
I don't
know if we want to spoil anything.
I don't. Wait.
I will give very clear spoiler warnings if I'm going to give specifics on it.
Spoiler, is this like reading a story or watching a movie? Spoiler warning for the episode of Loki that comes out tomorrow.
This is like the main cast. We'll just cover everything in the world of sports.
No, that's when Terry's on.
Well, that's true, right? Well, the NFL Red Zone NHL does Frozen Frenzy now, right?
Which is awesome.
On ESPN. I think we need a sim racing equivalent to that, where we just jump on for 2 hours, 3 hours, and just go through a whole bunch of different sessions. Just check in with what's going on.
I want that.
It can be official racing. It can be world championship stuff. It can be league stuff, big money, single races, whatever. Let's just watch a bunch of races for a couple hours.
I like it. I think we do it. Corey Ensing thinks we should do it. Sean Conklin's in. The leader of this race has brought it down pit road. So that is the first major domino to fall at this point with Conklin coming in. You know what you can't do? Oh, as the 13 overshot his pit box. You know what you can't do in real world NASCAR competition, but you can easily do in iRacing?
Drive through the cars on pit road.
Yeah, because usually if you drive through more, if you drive through more than one, that's a penalty almost all the time. You got driving through too many boxes on entry, driving through too many boxes on exit. There's very strict rules in pit road in a NASCAR race, but you know, just like going under the double yellow lines in super speedway competition in iRacing versus NASCAR, you can do it in iRacing technically.
And because it's a curved pit road there, it's the shorter way around.
It is.
You are going to have a significant time gain by going the shortest way around. Look at this kind of conflict off of pit road as the 7 machine of Daniel Naney exits ahead of Austin Fitzgerald. Up the road from them, we've already seen your once race leader, Sean Conklin, come in and out. Again, that's just kind of a further confirmation of the strategy that we knew was going to happen. And eventually, at some point during this run, the 9 of Newman will take over the race lead if he stays out for that long. But again, Newman needs to one stop to the end of the race if he wants to be on the same planet as the rest of the field. I just don't see any realm where a 3-stop counters the 2-stop on time. I mean, you're almost giving up a minute between slowing down, getting on pit road, and getting up to speed. I just don't think there's that much of a difference. Joseph is in P2. He comes over the radio to say that he is coming down to pit road, so he'll come in for one of his 2 remaining pit stops. Again, all of this, assuming the race stays green. And some of the most dangerous times in the race, Dylan, are green flag pit stops when you get cars on fresh tires and old tires, mixing and mangling. So this is some time to kind of heighten your awareness, get out of that tunnel vision, and be ready. Keep your eyes peeled, because these can be some treacherous times when we go through a pit cycle like this.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's when a situation that Brad Newman wants to get himself in is maybe there's a caution when he potentially takes the momentary lead of this race, as there's a major lockup for the 24 of Tom Wetmore in this one, and Brennan Bikey is also down pit road, so this is kind of the time for Newman to really be hoping here, as you know, he's struggling compared to these cars with fresher tires. This is the biggest disparity that we will see in this race, and might see in this race, where we've got a car on 60-lap old tires trying to race with cars on completely new sets of Goodyear rubber. I believe only Daniel Smallwood and Jacob Schneider have not come out of the box yet. Schneider in the box. Smallwood continues rolling around. He's the leader of this race. What is he trying to do is my question. The last time he was in the pits, are my eyes deceiving me? Lap 68, so...
Yeah, 94 laps ago.
Wow.
He, Joshua Watson, and Andy Henry are all the cars who have yet to pit. From the longest of strategies. Now, there's more who still have to pit, but Newman pitted obviously a little bit earlier. And then we saw Chris Peffer and Alan Pajari pit the lap out of the yellow flag after that wholesale service, right? We talked about getting that little bit of extra fuel so they can go a tad bit further. But from the oldest of tires, it's those 3, and one of them bows out. Josh Watson is on
Smallwood too. Smallwood's coming in right now, so he's coming in with a little bit hot right here. Needs to get that thing slowed down. Those are the yellow cones with that white line that dictates speed heading into pit road. It is a pretty long pit road now, because look at all the empty boxes on the former front stretch here. That right there is where you'd usually be fed back out on track, but you come around this crescent right here, which, by the way, I didn't know how much I love the crescent. I know I said it before, but let's just have some love for it again, because a lot of things happen in there. we'll be there for the start, or at the start-finish line at the Crescent for some intros, driver intros all race. Gonna have some ride-around trucks going right outside the Xfinity Series garage, which all meet in the middle.
What else are you gonna get in the Crescent?
Mike's Hard Lemonade.
A Mike's Hard Lemonade, that's right.
Well, I'll be working, Evan. I won't be working Friday night for the truck race.
Friday night?
Ah!
We better get a tweet.
And you know who I might be
Mike's
with?
Hard Lemonade at the racetrack.
You know who I might be hanging with?
Who are you hanging with at Phoenix?
Nick Mara.
Okay, so that's another cut back to some of the other leagues that you can find here on RaceSpot. So, all the names coming out to Phoenix.
Yeah.
If you're in the area, hit Dylan up. He'll buy you a Mike's.
I know Linus Brostrom, if you know Linus Brostrom. Oh, wow, that's a wild move by the two of Conklin. Sorry, just one moment there. Linus will be there, so hopefully I'll see him. He was trying to cut the difference there, and the 10 is going to be the odd man in the middle. 3 wide again to kind of cut him off a little bit. Dangerous maneuvering because the 10 is slow. Caution. Brad Newman needed it.
This changes the entire race because half the cars who have pitted on this run are still 1 lap down. So this is a whole new race as we try to figure out what the heck happened at Phoenix. The longest green flag run of the night comes to an end. Newman in control as the leader. We are going to try to find what happened. It's not a big mess wherever it was. This is when we need those onboards on every car and just go back and scrub the tape, or those fixed cameras in every corner. I'm rifling through the cams trying to find.
I can hear the clicking in the background.
In the 11.
Ah, look at this. Josh Lee.
Lee's got it, and on his own. That's tough. Another very, by the way,
Barney.
Short leash on the yellow.
Barney
wants to see another restart, and he's going to get it. That's about the 3rd yellow tonight that we've seen like that. And all the leaders going to come down to pit road. Joseph, Jacob Schneider, Daniel Smallwood do not. They have all pitted within the last 10 laps. So
I don't like that move.
Cycle through to the top 3 spots, but Brad Newman is back in this ball game.
With as few people that are on the lead lap, half the field, Joseph and the rest of them should have come down. Because fresh tires versus 10-lap old tires on a relatively short track performing speedway, I think that would have been, you know, the right move to come down here. Now, the other thing that does, though, if you're thinking ahead, what is the benefit versus having 10-lap old tires versus trapping some of the drivers like Bakey, like Wetmore, PB Henry, some of the faster drivers in this race who we've seen battling up top, they cannot take the wave around now. So, you know, if they wanted to take the wave around, they could not. Everyone has to be on the lead lap. Everyone on the lead lap has to come down pit road for the rest of the lap down cars to get a lap back. So that did not happen.
It's a tough go there. Now, there are some drivers that'll be ahead of Conklin because Conklin was, of course, not the leader when the yellow flag came out. So they will get a wave around in respect to the fact that they're not technically a lap down anymore, right? They're ahead of the current race leader, Joseph. So that will apply to Chris Peffer, Brandon Bakey, Maggie McGuire, and Tom Wetmore. They will all be able to stay out and get their lap back, not due to a wave around in terms of, you know, getting your free lap back, but just because the car who is now the leader was behind them in the running order in relation to where they were a lap down. I know that's complicated, but it makes sense. And so those 4 cars are ahead of the leader, so they're not technically a lap down. So they're going to get waved by at the one to go. So it'll give us 21 cars on the lead lap, but there's still big names stuck a lap down. Joshua Watson, Josh Hoffner, PB Henry, Jacob Klein, Mark Paget. So a handful of drivers do get stuck out and caught off on this strategy.
Yeah, they definitely have, and that's a shame for them, but it's exactly what somebody like Brad Newman needed. Yeah, he'll be sent a little bit to the back of this lead lap, but he gets to go back onto the lead strategy here. I think that was a welcome caution for him. Much needed, and actually he'll be restarting in 4th here, so he caught a break. He certainly caught a break. That was the caution I said he needed.
And we had just crossed, by the way, the halfway point in this race when that yellow flag came out. So as the lights go out on top of the pace car, there will be 161 laps complete, 151 laps to go. So still plenty of time for this race to get crazy again. And the question is now, we're still very much in the mid-race, right? People came down and pitted again. Forget all the talk about the 2 pit stop strategy, right? That was all based on a green flag run. None of these cars are going to be able to make it the distance from here. We're still a pit cycle away from the end of the race. So do they push, or are we still in a mid-race mindset? Let's see how grouping them up has changed the mentality. Green flag back in the air, and Joseph on the 11-lap older tire is going to lead some laps at Phoenix. 4 wide for P2.
Look at the 5 sliding up, getting tight. 9 trying to see if there's a hole to go. 4 wide, 3 abreast, contact, pinballing, hitting each other. It's going to be a big mess here. 4 wide in the 3. They're not making it. Huge hit into the outside wall. 3 fast cars out of this one.
It was never going to work. It survived for a moment through the dogleg, and then it all fell apart. They were bouncing off each other all the way down the back straightaway. The only driver to make it through is the 9 of Brad Newman on the bottom, as it was the 2 car. Second from the inside there of Sean Conklin, who goes up. The 5 is in the middle. That's damage to Daniel Smallwood, but the hardest of hits of all goes to that 6 of Jacob Schneider. All 3 of those race cars, I think, damaged beyond the point where they can be competitive for the race win anymore.
It's almost like since we went into one right here, we knew something was coming. I mean, it looked like they got it fine, still tight, aggressive, dangerous, but then they really tightened up on the exit of 2, and then they start pinballing. You can't save it because one goes high, one goes low. Smallwood's just that ball in the middle. And then bang, huge hits. Obviously, you don't see what the worst of it is, but the 14th running car at that point, the 5 machine of Daniel Smallwood, obviously got some big contact there. The 6 is destroyed. I mean, that is such a massive hit. That's race over. Engine expired. It's as hard of a hit that you can take here going into 3 and 4 at Phoenix. Surprisingly, though, even though it was at the front of the field, it only took out those 3 cars.
And it takes 3 of the top 4 out of this race and eliminates almost everybody who made a strategy decision. And I think the only reason they're 4 wide there is because they were on older tires, some of those cars, right? They decided not to pit to get the track position. They were immediately under fire by the cars with fresh tires, maybe a little bit desperate, and it leads to that accident. So everybody else on the lead lap either has pitted on that most recent yellow, or some of them actually coming back down to pit road now, like we've seen often. If you're towards the rear, get some more fuel, get some more tires. There was no limit on either of those. Not going to be able to pit now, make it to the end of the race. It's not going to be a strategy-changing decision, but like we saw in the last run, you get that little bit extra fuel, that little bit extra buffer, and it can go a long way. The only car out there who's not on cycle is Joseph. He has led the last 6 laps of the race. Hard to believe that those are really the only laps that he's led tonight, since he decided to stay out under this yellow. But I just don't see him on 8-lap older tires than Newman, than Wilhite, Vorvarema, Gossett, everybody else, that he's going to be able to do much to hold them off. He'll get a jump on the race start as the control car. That's going to help, but I don't foresee it lasting that long.
Well, you're absolutely right. I was going to bring up that point. It depends on his restart, right? If he spins the tires, then absolutely he's going to be eaten alive. But you saw what happened there, going 3 wide in the top 5. It kind of ruined their own shot at trying to get back into the lead. So, yeah, Conklin saying on the radio that he was never told by his spotter that it was a 3 wide situation. So he was told there was a car on the the outside. And
well, it's a good thing his spotter didn't say it was a 3 wide, because it was a 4 wide.
Oh, that's right. That's good. It was for a moment, but Newman just kind of scooted on by.
Yeah.
It's the second time I've seen Brad Newman scoot around an incident going into turn 3 in this race, and both times he didn't make a lick of contact.
Tough break for those drivers involved, as it takes some big names out of the race, and maybe Brad Newman from the outhouse to the penthouse, we'll see. Not that long ago, we were questioning the off-cycle pit strategy, talking about how he's got to make it 110 laps if he wants to fight for the win, and now he is the first car on fresh tires. Maybe not, though, the best position, because consistently tonight, outside of the front row P2, has been beaten by inside of row number 2 P3, and in this case, that is Chris Wilhite. He is lined up behind Joseph and may have a better opportunity to follow the 8 on the restart and be the first driver to crack at the lead. So keep an eye on the 9 and the 3 and how they battle for first to get to second. It's a good jump for Joseph. No surprise there. And an awful start topside for the 1 of Roman. It checks up the top side, and the race for P2 does go in favor of Newman after all.
Big hit for the number 3 in the background with Will Height. He is majorly smoking on that right front side. He's going to have to come into the pits. That might be race over for him in third. Unfortunate circumstance, but Tommy Gossett is back up there and back fighting. Gossett, he's been around the entire way in this race. He's dealt with it. He's gone through the gauntlet, and now he almost gets into the 16. I think he did, and then he blocks the 7, gets into the right rear quarter panel of the 16. Man, contact everywhere.
Clearly, they don't buy into the fact that this is still mid-race. They think it's the home stretch.
We already saw mid-race,
144 to go on the scoring pylon. Yeah, they're done with it. They want to go, and it's similar racing to what we saw early in this race. Why not 3 wide? To the middle goes Corey Ensign. It's Bonds to the outside. The 20 is Smith on the inside. They'll make it work on the entry to turn number 1. In front of them, it's William K. Price trying to lead the way, but how about more contact there? Side by side by side. Still 3 abreast with Ensign. Big dive into the corner, missed it by a mile.
13 on the outside, does not get into the dogleg whatsoever, losing momentum, losing spots. A car underneath on the apron trying to get his way back on track safely and calmly. Looks like he'll do that. The 2 of Conklin slides up. He almost loses it. He does. Inside pit wall. And caution is out. Barney once again wanted to call it. Bad goes to worse for Sean Conklin.
Could have been a lot worse. You look, he pushes up. He gets into Wetmore, who did nothing wrong. Almost came into the wall and then almost nosed it into the inside wall. Admittedly, a lot better than it could have been, but Barney on a tight leash tonight just continues to throw that yellow any opportunity. And of course, those yellows aren't managed by a live admin. It's all automatically scored. If the car slows down or comes to a near stop on the surface, you're going to get it. But just seems like there hasn't been much of a margin for getting away with stuff tonight. And that's the onboard there from Conklin. Again, could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse right there. There's been a bunch of near misses. I keep forgetting that the 9 of Brad Newman, currently the leader of this race, has so much damage to that front splitter. I mean, it's bashed in, and he's still running fast times, and it's pretty impressive.
Impressive that it was a short run, certainly, but Brad Newman was able to maintain the lead there. Borborema had closed in and got to him for the challenge, and you know, things like that will happen. But once they got past Joseph, Newman did a good job of defending. And now I think the question for this run is, how bad does this get for Joseph, right? I don't know what the exact number was, Dylan. Obviously, he stays out when everybody else pits after that long run. But if you just pit with everybody else, you're somewhere in the top 12, right? I mean, somewhere in that range. Worst case, let's just say P12. I think if this thing goes green, even if that means all the way green to the next pit cycle or this kind of stop and start, Joseph probably ends up back around P12 anyways on the older tires. So I don't think this decision to stay out is going to end up working out for him. It didn't work out for anybody else who tried to stay out because they all wrecked the last time. So I guess it's better than that, but just not looking like it's going to be a race-winning move for Joseph. It's not necessarily a race-losing call either, just not in his favor currently. Just ask Brad Newman how fortunes can change, though.
Yeah, and I feel like the odds of us going back under yellow after a restart right now are a lot higher than they were earlier. I feel like once you hear, hey, we're over the halfway point, that's when things start to get crazy in an already fairly short race. And I think tempers are definitely coming into play. A lot of cars, remember, are still trapped a lap down. The more cautions that come into play, though, the more opportunities that the free pass brings drivers to that lead lap. Remember, now we got 18 cars. I think we'll have 19 cars on the lead lap here, so that's pretty big in the grand scheme of things. As this race continues to pace around, we'll probably go back to green flag racing with what, 138 laps, I'd say, left in this one, 138 miles. So this is the first year you're not going to Phoenix, Evan?
Yeah, I've been the last couple years when the championship moved to Phoenix, and it's a little bit more than a 4-hour drive now from Tampa to Phoenix. So just not in the cards this time. Yeah,
it's a little more than a 4-hour flight as well.
Yeah, it's a bit of a hike. It's probably 4.5 hours. I fly through PHX a lot, but I'll be watching from home. I've planned my Sunday around it.
We also, I mean, on the team side, we don't fly commercial, so we'll fly a chartered flight, which isn't as fancy as it sounds. Trust me, it is cool.
You guys flying to Sky Harbor or somewhere smaller?
I think it's like Lux.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You know, Evan knows all about the airplanes and the airports.
Tracking planes on another screen. Like I said, multitasking. It's like I talked about doing like the iRacing Manning cast or the iRacing kind of NFL Red Zone. That's basically what my monitors are every day.
Yeah,
is a bit of a red zone of all kinds of things. Space car long gone. Brad Newman back atop this race. What a change the last 50 laps have been for him. Almost wrecked the car though. Went to the apron really early. Got loose. Oh. Here comes Joseph, but he shuts the door.
Joseph ran out of room. Brad Newman defended his mistake pretty confidently right there, but the 8 has speed. Yellow is out, wrecking the back.
Joseph was looking for the lead. This one involves Mark Paget. The Caterpillar 21 Chevrolet has been one of the funnest cars to watch tonight. Has been in a whole lot of battles, but it was a mistake on his part that causes this one, and it happened on the entry to turn 1.
We got the replay right here of this Ward Burton throwback, or I guess you could say more of a Jeb Burton now throwback, because he had it for one time in this season. He just loses it, gets into the 31, gets T-boned right there to lower speed, but it's unfortunate. It's his own fault. It involves other cars, and I mean, it's a mistake. It's just a mistake you hate to make, not just for your race, but also you don't want to be the reason that other people are out of this or have problems, because then they've got one coming back to you.
And I wonder if, just watching that one back, if Paget got spooked by the car that got loose up the road, if he thought that was going to be a wreck. Because it was Wetmore who was, 45 degrees sideways, middle of the corner, and maybe he was lifting to anticipate a wreck. And this is one of the best saves that you'll see out of the case of Wetmore and others. Let's kind of watch all of this, right? You'll see the bobble up front when your leader goes to the apron and gets loose, right? He goes low right away. There's the twitch. That's how we get the battle up front. And it kind of stacks things up a little bit throughout, but you're looking for that orange bumper up the road. That's Tom Wetmore. He's going to get sideways and have the best save of this race. There's the smoke, car sideways. He might think we're wrecking. And I don't know if it's he lifts or tries to throttle up or what, but when that car got sideways is when he lost his.
Once you see some smoke in front of you that close,
check this out.
Wow.
Walk it. Just a little touch. I'll give it to him.
I will say, great save. Great little bit of work in the cockpit, but it was also kind of aided by the fact that he was spinning in the way that he was also pushed against. So, cool save. Had a little bit of help to save it. Love you, Tom.
What a hater. I thought it was a nice save.
I mean, it's fair. That's why people like you more, Evan.
I've called somebody out every once in a while, so not everybody, certainly.
You have called people out. You also penalize and disqualify people after the fact. But you'll say something. You have to play 2 roles.
Yeah, it's tricky sometimes.
It is tricky.
There you go. 9.25 on the save score. What is that out of 10 though? Is the deduction for getting the wall?
No,
or
it's
is
the
deduction for being helped or whatever nonsense Dylan was talking about?
It's out of 16.
Okay, it's a deduction for the wall. He would have saved it without the wall anyway, so I agree.
I thought it was
it's a small
fine.
deduction. He would have saved the wall. Isn't the reason he saved it, but he did get the wall. So I agree with the 9.25.
All right, I disagree with the 9.25. I'm going to give it a 8.0, which is still a great mark in my book.
Yeah, like 8.0 is great. It's like a good season, but like not getting to the World Series good season, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just try to relate to you. I want to explain it in terms that you'll understand.
I'm struggling here, buddy. Dylan's incorrect score is an 8.
Good save, Tom.
I don't know if you could see my face on our screens. Maybe our producer could. But I just had the biggest ow that hurts inside moment because you're so accurate about it.
Wish we had an ISO of that for the sizzle at the end of the night. Well, the pace car is off and in, and the Brad Newman machine now may be prepping for a fight with Joseph. Remember, Joseph was the one who stayed out. He has the older tires, but he was all over the 9 last time, and I'm curious, Newman made that really early move down to the apron, nearly wrecked the car. Wonder if he's not going to do that again. They are on each other's door in turns 3 and 4, looking for the restart with 133 laps to go, and Newman gets a big shove from the 7, an early jump for him to get the race lead through the dogleg.
Oh, there's some slower cars in the middle of this dogleg. They all fan out, still 4 wide going into it. There's bound to be something happening here in the mid-pack as they all come together. Look at this angle, coming off at 2. They're all fine for now. That was impressive.
They're able to make it work for the time being. Some 3 wide, back a couple of rows. Middle of that, the number 20 of Cody Smith as they are working over the 17 of Brandon Bakey, going high, going low, and the 17 going the wrong way in the middle.
Well, the 17 got into the back of the 23. 23 said, what was that for? 17 said, well, he slowed down going into the corner, and maybe slowed down a little bit too much than the 17 was thinking, but it wasn't really a brake check. It was just slowing down for the corner. So, yeah, 17, maybe some damage in the front.
Clearly something affecting him as he continues to plummet through the running order, slips outside of the top 10. J.R. Borborema rides in 4th, trying to hold off the likes of Vroman, Ensign, and Gossett, who are lined up behind him. A lot of similar race cars, a lot of yellow, black, and white amongst those 3 as they all battle inside of the top 10, and Newman is able to settle things down, lead some laps up front.
A lot of people unhappy on the radio right now. I'm not sure if you can hear it, Evan, but people are starting to let the tempers get the best of them. And some drivers that we thought had race-ending incidents, Sean Conklin a couple times, is still running up front. Top 10, top 11. 19 cars in the lead lap right now, and a further 6, or I should say 5, that are 1 lap down. So still a lot of good cars in this race, good fast cars. Brad Newman, though, he is the class of the field at this moment.
5, the correct number of the cars down a lap, and I will say baseball spoiler alert. 5, also the lead that the Texas Rangers have over the Arizona Diamondbacks, 1 out away from their first ever franchise World Series. So that's what's going on elsewhere in the world of sports here tonight. Like I said, we'll keep you posted on what's going on all over the place. Right now, keeping you posted on the battle for the race win here at Phoenix, which is still very much up in the air. Brad Newman leading 37 laps tonight, is in control of this race. If you had told me that 45 minutes ago, I would have thought you were Dylan Coyle trying to make a fuel strategy number. Would have looked at you a little bit silly, but man, has this thing flipped, and that goes to show you, I mentioned it very early on, there is no tire limits. You can take fuel as much as you want. There's full fuel cells. Because of that, the race length is a strategy element in and of itself, and this proves it here, right? In almost any other race, big money race, league race, world championship race, Dylan, by the time we get to this changing point, the race is done, right? Newman using this full length race to stay in the conversation, and that's that full race length strategy playing itself out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think as we see a lot of miscombobulation here, the 8 gets hit by the 7 going into turn 3. One's going to try and take advantage of the 8 washing up high. This might be 3 or 4 cars in just the span of 2 or 3 sets of corners here for Nicholas Froman.
They race in unison off of the corner. It looks like the Blue Angels going down the back straightaway. How tight they are together. The 8 car of Joseph able to separate for a moment, and you got 2 sets of 2. The 1 of Roman to the inside of the 7 of Naney. Behind them, the 16 of Borborema to the inside of the 13 car of Corey Ensign. In unison, they race through turns 1 and 2. Topside, the advantage. The exit there is Naney almost and now all the way clear on the 1 car. You can give him P3.
Not yet. It's a little premature, is it not?
I mean, the 7's certainly clear for P3. I don't think that's a debatable point.
I thought you said the 1. Sorry, I'm just reconciling the fact.
Remember when we talked about tunnel vision and it's a long race?
I'm just reconciling. Hey, listen, I'm reconciling the fact that, spoiler alert, the Rangers are World Series champions and the Phillies totally choked it.
It's all right. Listen, Rangers' first MLB team in history to finish 25-plus games under 500, and then the next year win the World Series.
All right, listen,
and I think it was cool to see the Rangers and the Diamondbacks in it because it gives perennial wild card teams like my Blue Jays hope that you don't need to be a 148-win team like the Braves. Fair. You don't have to win an acidine amount of games to have that postseason success.
I'll give you 2 things here, 2 points before we get back to the thing that's going on your screen right now, which is called racing. I went to your Vegas Golden Knights. I went to a game of theirs in March. Next month, the playoffs started. Vegas Golden Knights, Stanley Cup champions. September, I went to a Texas Rangers game. And they weren't supposed to even make the postseason. They were in a wild card battle, and a month later, I guess a month and a day later, they're World Series champions. I'm telling you, Phillies would have won it if they didn't choke. But woulda, coulda, shoulda. Can't wait to play the Dallas Cowboys with the Philadelphia Eagles in Dallas this weekend.
Well, see, here's the trick, is if you want your city to win a pro sports championship...
Just have no hope.
Well, no, you need to either... win it before I move to the city or after. And the context is...
days before.
Well, Blue Jays won some World Series championships before my time, BE, before Evan, and didn't win it when I was in Toronto, and none of the sports teams in Toronto did. I leave Toronto Raptors win an NBA championship, and I moved to Las Vegas. 3 days after I move out of Las Vegas, the Vegas Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup, and of course moving to Tampa, where the Bucks have had success, won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. Now, not really that great because I'm here. So that's your trick, is if you want a pro sports championship, pay for me to move there for just a year. All right. Check it off the list. The second I leave, you'll win it. I promise.
Okay, the second I left Philadelphia last June, the Phillies went to the World Series, the Union went to the MLS Cup, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, and choked all of it away.
Me and you are not the same.
Where's Giancarlo Esposito's meme when you need it?
Yeah, see, close.
We're not the same.
Not close enough, yeah.
I'll tell you who else is not the same. It's Brad Newman. He's not even in the same zip code.
He is gone.
He's in Glendale. Everyone else is in Avondale.
Seconds. He is. He's gone. He's in Phoenix, and they're in Avondale. That's how far away he is. Brad Newman is checking out 1.7 seconds ahead of Joseph. And again, that makes sense. If you ignore him, pretend this is an F1 race, right? Brad Newman's Max Verstappen. He's kicking their butts right now. If you ignore that car, the rest of it's quite exciting, right? The battle for P2 on the back makes sense because all those cars are on the same strategy. They all pitted together. Joseph obviously had the older tires. I'm impressed that he's holding on strong in P2. Yeah. I thought we were talking about P12. I think he's going to end up worse. He proved me wrong, but it makes sense that everybody else is pretty close. Newman's the surprise here because not only did he pass Joseph, who's got the older tires, but he's also running those same 1.7 seconds ahead of cars that pitted at the same time as him. And that's the crazy thing, is how much the 9 has been able to flip the switch here.
The 9 was also the first car in the qualifying order, well, I should say in the starting lineup, that did not set a time in qualifying. So I don't know if that plays a part where it's like, yeah, I've got speed here. Let me show it. Let me prove it. He went off strategy, and he still is leading this race by almost 2 seconds out in front on the rest of this pack. Still at least one pit stop to go. If a caution came out now, I'd expect everyone to come down, but that would mean they'd still have to pit. You can make, give or take, 95-ish laps on one full tank of fuel at Phoenix. Obviously, you don't want to go that far, and at this point, they're going to try and cut this green flag run in half, or just run until you run out at any more, and we'll see. I don't think we're done wrecking.
Yeah, part of me thinks that the split in half method is what we normally see. It tends to be the most logical one. But I think because it's so short of a full fuel run from the pit stop to the end of this race, that looking for everybody to come down and pit, and do 76 lap stints might be a little bit shy. The other part is we just came off of a green flag cycle, Dylan, where so many cars got stuck a lap down because they pitted when they should have, right? They pitted in the middle. That's what you're supposed to do, but you lost a lap and got stuck there. Some of them had to take wave around. Some of them have gotten lucky dogs. Some of them haven't gone back to the lead lap since. I wonder if that recency bias jumps in, and some people remember, well, 100 laps ago, some guys got stuck down a lap. So maybe drivers are going to push it a little bit later on this stop to not go a lap down, knowing what could happen.
Yeah, that's true. I also feel like going a lap down, that was just a really bad victim of circumstance, because if that goes another 5 laps, they're all back on the lead lap. I don't think anybody's concerned. At the same point, though, the caution still came out in that worst possible case scenario time period. So it's a reminder of what can happen, but I think the risk is worth the reward when the risk is very low, and the reward is just continuing to race your race, staying out, or pitting early, I should say.
So close to being inside of the final 100 laps of this race. I'd appreciate all of you spending late into the night here on this Wednesday evening with us on RaceSpot and the iRacing Esports Network. This is the iRacing Phoenix NASCAR Finale, the last race of the 2023 NASCAR iRacing Series Open schedule, and a great way to close out this campaign here on the service, part of the iRacing special events calendar as the NASCAR season comes to an end this weekend. You're currently watching the battle for 4th odd back, and it may be no longer Corey Ensings, because here comes Nicholas Vroman, the one to the inside, heavily pressured and influenced by Tommy Gossett, who wants him to make a pass. They are all biting at the heels of this 13 Ford, and look at the line of cars behind them. I don't think it's the fact that the 13 is slower by a tenth a lap, but he's certainly slower, I think, by a couple hundredths, Dylan. And that's by
13!
stacking him up, and look out, Gossett pushed up, got into the quarter panel. Somehow, Ensing didn't feel a thing.
I think he did feel a little bit. I think there was a twitch in the wheel. Gossett came in with a ton of speed. I feel like if they weren't turning left on exit there so sharply to get ready for the dogleg, that the 13's a little bit more unsettled.
Yeah, just being in the corner and the fact that race car's kind of pushed down to the racetrack on exit and probably almost at full throttle, it's kind of stuck to the track per se, probably helped him and made it look like he just kind of shook it off like it was nothing. And now here's the challenge back down to the bottom. Obviously, Gossett not intentionally trying to get into Ensing there. He got the worst end of it, but again, I think quicker. The 13 just a tad bit slower, and that's why you're seeing these cars line up behind them. So they're still side by side, and behind them, almost, William Price just about took out the 16 car at J.R. Borborema, and the 13's into the outside wall. So all of a sudden, this battle inside of the top 10 gets feisty again. Clear is Gossett, and Ensing fake the crossover. That would have been a bold move if he committed to it.
Yeah, for sure, bold move, but you've been seeing a lot of bold moves from this top pack of cars in this race. I mean, at this point, Joseph has checked out, and he's starting to claw back his gap, that deficit that he's got back from Brad Newman. Daniel Naney has checked out as well. It's Vroman starting to do the same. It's pretty much 5th on back. It's just a hornet's nest right now. They're buzzing. These boys are buzzing.
They're feeling it late in this race. All of those mid-race sleepies and tunnel vision and whatever you want to say, the physical aspects, the mental aspects are trying to get through a full-length NASCAR Cup race on the surface has gone away, and man, there's still 100 laps to go, so it's going to be tough for these drivers to keep this intensity up through the end of this one, but this is all for major points paying positions inside of the top 10. Remember, the consequences of these official races is safety rating, I rating, all at stake.
Exactly. And I don't know if that means that these drivers worry more. You know, it depends on the league, right? If a league is very prestigious and the official race is maybe not as important to them, they're going to do everything they can to race hard in that league. But this is one of the bigger races, bigger seasons, bigger official series in iRacing. If you can win an NIS, especially open race, I think that separates you from the rest of the pack, especially with, you know, how fast these cars are, how fast these drivers are. They're open setups, so you kind of have to suit the setup to the driving style. Cars are all the same. Makes it pretty interesting. Have you noticed, by the way, the gap from first to second?
It has started to swing back the opposite direction, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like we saw this with Brad Newman a little bit earlier in the race too. Right? Aggressive early, fought for track position, and then kind of used up too much and got reeled back in. And his lap times are being bested by Joseph by a wide margin. Last lap, 28.226 for Newman. It was a 28.1 flat for Joseph. I mean, that's more than a tenth of a second every single time around. At that rate, he'll be there in the next 3 laps.
I'd love to correct you, but I can't.
Yeah. Shoot or shoot. Didn't miss.
Shoot. You shot. And yeah. You didn't
Unlike
miss.
the Diamondback center fielder trying to field a ground ball in the top of the 8th inning. I didn't miss.
Center fielder? Huh?
Yeah, just muffed it. Just missed it. Didn't get the glove down low enough.
Oh, yikes. What was it? There was a 10-0 in the 3rd inning, 5-0 in this game.
It's tough. It happens.
How did the
Not
Phillies
everybody
lose?
is
My
Brad
gosh.
Newman. Not everybody can bounce back.
All right. Well, I think that's more of a Joseph thing, the way the trends are going, because Joseph is bouncing back against Brad Newman with 100 laps to go in this race here at Phoenix Raceway. Great battle going on right here between Corey Ensing, J.R. Bobarema, and Josh Watson. Watson watched the 16 kind of slid up into the 13. I think Watson just pushed the 16 into the corner. That's going to be some contact with the 13. Tries to slide underneath. 3 wide, maybe no.
They're all over the racetrack. There's Tom Wetmore, Brandon Bakey and company arguing on the radio over getting pinched into the wall back in the teens. So there is stuff going on everywhere. It's kind of sneakily getting into the late afternoon here at the Phoenix Raceway.
It is.
Saw some of the shadows coming over the mountain there down in turn number 4, I guess it is now. Rattlesnake Hill down at the 1 and 2 end of the racetrack. A nice view to kind of hike and get a peek at the racetrack on even a non-race weekend. A good opportunity to pop over there, get outdoors and be around the racetrack. But yeah, it's getting late afternoon in sim time, just past 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But again, it is the correct date in the sim, which is important as well for this weekend's race. So sunset's a little bit sooner, which is something to keep in mind. We're certainly not going to go night racing, but the track conditions have changed over the course of the last 2 hours and 6 minutes since we dropped the green flag. Track temp has come all the way down to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a huge difference from where it was earlier today.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a massive difference as that sun started to just kind of not even worry. And when you say massive difference, track temperature, not really. Like I'd say the ambient temperature went up, but the track temperature kind of came down. Wasn't it 85 to start with?
Yeah, it's trickled down, and obviously you're going to get later, so you're going to have less direct sunlight. But yeah, track temperature has changed a lot from the start of the race. Now, it wasn't an extreme to begin with, right? It's a point that we touched on really early. If it was in the hundreds, then it would be more notable. So 85 to 80 is what it was earlier, and the ambient temp to start this race was at 70 degrees. That is still the same. So it's interesting that the ambient temp hasn't changed, but the track temp has, I think, just solely from the lack of sun as it kind of ducks behind some of these clouds that you can see in those partly cloudy conditions. The cloud was much more clear at the start of the race, too.
You know what's pretty clear? We got a
battle for the race lead.
Ah!
Has got him. Joseph, we wrote him off. Lost spots early on the run, said, man, you should have pitted. I don't think it's going to be the right move.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, Newman gets reeled in. They are 2.7 seconds ahead of third, and this is Joseph's opportunity to really take control of this race for the first time. Right, he started on pole. We've talked about it at length, but if you missed it, he got spun at the end of lap number one. Oh, look out there! A couple of shots to the back of Newman. Joseph with no patience after having that spin early in the race, driving through the field, led some laps, and there's the payback now. Newman's going to go up and door the 8 car at Joseph, and they are trying to rip the paint off each other in the battle for the lead.
Yeah, I was gonna say right before they met, the 8 has been so impatient and so aggressive, overly aggressive in this race, and I don't think the 9's gonna stand for most of it. There's some more contact coming through the dog leg, maybe some more coming into turn 1. The 8 is just trying to cut off the 9. If I'm the 9, I don't care. I do exactly that with a little bit of a body check to the outside. Maybe get a boarding penalty here.
There it is. Well, you know, they were 2.7 seconds ahead of third when...
Oh, there it is!
There it goes! Joseph sideways. He saves it for now.
Keep it
and he will
under
reel
control,
it back
Marty.
in. They were 2.7 seconds ahead of third. Oh, now there's a yellow. Where is the spin? It's a different car. It's Mark Paget around
21
in turn number 3. And an opportunity for us to take a collective deep breath as we survive that without a yellow. And it'll be a single car spin, I think the replay will show for Paget.
Yeah, you'll see here as he's coming in the 3, he just turns in a little bit too early, got a little bit too much of spin into the corner, overcorrected, smacked the wall. I'm surprised he didn't have an engine burst, but here's what happened just before. I mean, it's just 2 guys who are racing a little bit aggressively, and if I'm Newman, I have no qualms about doing what that just was. Again, I think the 8 comes down actually a little bit. The 8 was trying to pinch the 9 so much in that battle. I don't think you do anything there. If there was race
it
control.
started with the 8 getting into the 9 paid it back, and admittedly at that point, once you're kind of both engaged,
right?
If you're making contact, you're making contact. But this will change the race because this is going to put us inside the fuel window to get to the end inside of 90 laps to go. So if things stay green, this is it. Now more yellows can bring more opportunities to pit, but this is the opportunity. Could it be the money stop? 4 tires at a fuel for Brad Newman. He's going to dive out into the pit lane. Where does he cycle out on the exit, though? It's a long way for him to go. Past Wetmore, past the 19 car, all the way to the end and in front of almost all of them, but the 8 car gets him. Joseph, your pole sitter, going to use the number 1 spot on pit road to make a pass for the lead under yellow.
So, pay close attention to where these drivers will line up, in which row, inside, outside, everything like that. Because while it will be Joseph starting on the inside here, and Newman starting in the outside, I think it would have been worse if Newman was starting in 3rd. I feel like Vroman will be a little bit conservative on this start, but I don't think Tommy Gossett is going to cut anyone some slack. I think if there's anyone that stands to gain the most out of that caution, it was definitely Vroman, because I don't know. I just have a feeling that Joseph and Brad Newman, they're going to be so focused on each other that Vroman's just going to come on through.
There is no more 8-lap advantage here, 8-lap deficit there. It is an even fight now amongst everybody on the lead lap, and it just seems like, yeah, Joseph gets to the lead, but I think he wanted that to go green, right? He was so much better than Newman. Maybe can only blame himself, because I was surprised that he made the contact at a really aggressive move. He was better and probably could have waited to set it up, and maybe if he doesn't hit him the first time, Newman doesn't hit him back, maybe they don't do that, right? But for somebody who's led laps in this race, he's only led 13. Most of those were under yellow when he stayed out to take the lead. 1 restart plus a yellow after that. I mean, unlike Newman, who has had points of total control, unlike, Conklin, who has had points of total control, Joseph hasn't. And that was kind of it coming up. I mean, he was poised to going to check out with the lead. Not saying he can't do it off this restart, but it's going to be tough with all those guys breathing down your neck now solely in that home stretch now that we're inside of the fuel window.
Huh. I'm concerned. I'm concerned for these drivers who are about to be part of something that they didn't ask to be a part of. But there stands to be a lot of drivers who will gain from the ensuing mess that I do believe we'll see. Watch this be the calmest restart ever.
Right. I'm going to put the over-under on like 7 restarts.
7
from this
more?
point to the end of the race. Oh, yeah. I'm taking the over.
You're taking the over. So 7.5, 6.5 over. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do 6.5.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over.
Yeah.
We'll see. This counts as number 1. How many more restarts? How many more yellows will we have inside of the final 87 laps of this iRacing Phoenix NASCAR finale? Green flag back in the air.
Big restart there for Joseph. Vroman down the inside of Brad Newman, who, I mean, Newman got a horrible jump there, but the one should have done a little bit better on the start as well. Newman on the outside, going to try and take advantage of that speed momentum. He's going to clear the 1.
He clears the 1, and it's a change for second as Newman is able to defend for that position, and Vroman falls back to 3rd. P4, the 7 of Daniel Naney, takes it away from J.R. Borborema.
Oh, there's a big wreck!
It's a massive accident at the back of the top 10. Caution is out. Bakey and more involved.
Oh, man, the 23 absolutely destroyed his car throughout the dogleg. 17 was obviously involved, like you said. 23 just did not know what he was doing. Catch a replay here. This is the 20 car of Cody Smith. Gets involved, spins down low. I mean, this is the big one at Phoenix. All kind of flushing into turn 1. I'd like to get a look at what the 23 did, because 23 just... it looks like it was a turn from the 17 on that angle, but here we go. 23 just lost it.
Yeah, he got loose, and this goes back to, we saw a leader do it at some point earlier in this race, right? Make that quick dive to the apron and get loose. When you go to the apron there, or the dogleg in this case, yeah, it's fair game.
Yeah.
But it's a transition. Mm-hmm. So if you keep the wheel turn left and you transition down, the car's not going to have as much resistance to turn. It doesn't have the banking to lean on. It's going to want to spin. So most people, you go to the apron, you kind of got to give it a quick kind of cut to the right or lessen the angle that you're turning to the left to kind of make up for that. And it can happen to anybody, right? So certainly in this case, it happens to the 23 William K. Price. He gets loose and causes the accident. But we saw it happen to a race leader earlier in this race. I mean, that transition can catch anybody. Admittedly, for all the times and all the cars that have made a move to the dogleg tonight, it's pretty rare. All right, second time we've seen an incident of that sort. It's unfortunate here that it comes off of the restart because just wiped out a bunch of really fast cars.
Absolutely. It destroyed a ton of fast and not so fast cars in this race. I wonder if, we'll have more retire from this one, because we talked about how impressive it was in the beginning that we were not having many retirements in this race, but we've definitely reached that point where in this one, 8 cars have parked it for the day. We started with 32. Now down to 24 cars still on track, some at differing levels of what you would call on track, and most of them are on the lead lap. 21 cars at this point should all be on the lead lap, somewhere around there, and we're also at that point where everyone that was a lap down is getting free passes every time there's a caution, and getting themselves back onto the lead lap adds more players involved. So when we get back to green flag racing here, Evan, we've got kind of a change of ideology, I think, coming to Newman, to Vroman, because they both got horrible starts, and Joseph started to fly away. Joseph's saying to himself, why'd that have to happen? I had a lead, clean track in front of me, but he's going to have to deal with it again. I think the 9's going to be ready a little bit more. I think the 1's going to be ready a little bit more, which, you know, if they're going faster, then it's just an according effective speed going forward. So we'll see exactly what happens. I think we'll get going in, if not this lap, the pace car lights will turn off, then it will be the next lap, meaning with just over 80 laps remaining, we're going to go back to green flag racing, and you know, that sun is definitely starting to pop down behind some of the mountains, the structures. So 1 of 7 so far. Evan.
Yes.
1 of 7.
Yep.
6 more to go.
It's going to happen.
Very talkative.
It's not even a question.
True.
I'm absolutely convinced that the over is going to hit.
They are very talkative on the radio, so I feel like tempers are about to... Whoa. Tom Wetmore.
Just blow up?
No, he's been blown up. Actually, they were trying to tell him he's blown up already. All right.
Because he was a top 7 car at points in this race.
He's not spilling oil.
I don't know how much downforce that works with the Declan flopping around like that. Green flag back in the air. It's a good jump for Joseph, and importantly for him, the battle's going to be for second and not for the lead. Newman under fire as Vroman challenges from row 2. Naney tried to make it a 3-wide party on the outside. Couldn't make it stick. There's a touch there as the 7 bobbles, and they are nose to nose. The battle's for second, 3-wide mid-pack behind them.
Borborema almost lost it, but he was able to slot in behind a row of cars, but slides up and just runs himself against the left side of the 19 machine of Fitzgerald. More cars almost losing it. We stay green for the time being, but a huge slide, just completely forgetting his braking point, was Fitzgerald. Or excuse me, it was Bonds, Miller Bonds. We haven't talked about him at all in this race. He's in that bronze machine. Unbelievable. Wetmore in pit road. That's day done for him. We rejoin with the cast of crew that's on track. The 8 leads, but it's only by 4/10.
Not the first time we've seen somebody miss a corner exit. Not going to be the last time. We talked about with the race length here at Phoenix, it's over 1,200 corner entries and exits. This is far from the most banked track on the calendar, and because of that, that margin for overdriving the corner on the way in is much lower than it is at some of the other racetracks that we go to. So it's Joseph in front, Vroman second, Newman in third. Again, everybody's on equal tires despite all the strategy, the mistakes, the drama. It is an even playing field for the leaders. Battle on for 5th position is Tommy Gossett trying to muscle the 13. Corey Ensign out of the way. Ensign to fight back on the top side. There's contact between those two into turn 3.
I've never seen so much aggression from a race in a while. He just pushes the 13 all the way up into the wall. They're banging against each other right now. Gossett, man, I'll tell you what, Gossett's made so many enemies in this race. The 13 comes to the back of him and says, I did not like that very much. It makes Gossett slide up a little bit. 13 has a run. Does he try to go on the inside, or does he just break a little bit later? No, they just go into this quarter quite nicely. Vroman's made a move around Brad Newman for second, and Joseph's struggling a tiny bit.
Yeah, the shot to the bumper was the statement, and he just said over the radio now that he doesn't appreciate being ran like that. I'm always nervous about making somebody angry. If I'm going to hit them, I do not want them to be a car length off my bumper. I'm
going to finish it.
Yeah, that doesn't normally work out. But to Corey's credit, upset with Tommy, but hasn't run through him, and he's had the opportunity to do so. As up front, the gap for the race lead continues to close in. Vroman is on the attack, trying to get to Joseph, and feels funny to check the numbers, but it's true for how much we've talked about Nicholas Vroman tonight. Dylan, he has not led a lap yet. He has been in the conversation, but hasn't had his moment. And the good news for him is, who cares what happened in the 238 laps prior to this? He's got an opportunity to win this race right here, right now, inside of 75 to go.
Yeah, he absolutely has the opportunity to get into the lead. I wouldn't say that's necessarily winning this race, because you still got a lot of miles left in this one. Hey, what's all the talk we've had about you can't win the race in the first corner. You can't win the race with 72, 73 laps to go either, Evan. All you need sometimes is one lap lead. Roman's still in search of that.
And we've still got 5 yellows coming up on the over-under, which are going to happen. I've guaranteed it.
Yeah, you did guarantee it.
Hopefully it's not a Charles Barkley guarantee, which is normally a cold take. But we'll see. I'm still convinced that this race is far from over, and those top 3 are doing their best to pull away. They've opened up a second gap to Daniel Naney, 4th position on the back. 19 cars on the lead lap in this race, and overall there are 23 cars on track of the 32 who started this race 2 hours and 23 minutes ago. And we're happy that you've all been sticking with us here on Race Spot and the iRacing Esports Network. Joseph, Nick Vroman, combined 30 laps led between the two of them. Those are all in favor of the 8 car. Trying to hold off Newman, who has led 74, but the 1 car has his look to the inside. 8 car left it open for a moment, but Vroman waits.
Roman is a lot more patient than the 8 has been, the 9 has been, the 12 has been, the 2 has been. You want to know why? He's number 1.
Literally.
That's what I'm saying.
Top seed, 8,000 iRating. You maybe just got a different appreciation and approach with that much experience.
You still got to be aggressive with your racecraft, but you also have to keep your, number 2, number 3. They're all just as good, but the number 1 has proven to himself that he is the cream of the crop. He's there. He's kept that nose clean. He's not making any brash moves because it doesn't pay in this official series to lead the most laps or be out in front for as long as possible. It just pays to be where you are at the end of this race. Doesn't have to be there now.
Well, if you hit somebody and move them, that's going to hurt your safety rating. Those incident points, right? If you kind of blow the finish here, it's going to hurt your iRating. So there's consequences. You wouldn't think so, given the way that some people have driven tonight, but I think a mature and methodical approach to Roman, again, also knowing full well I could pass him now or I could pass him in 66 laps. Now, if we do see Newman close into the back bumper from a 3rd and apply a little bit more pressure to the 1, then Vroman may be encouraged to hurry up and make the pass on the 8 car, but he doesn't feel that threat currently with Newman about 4 or 5 car lengths off the bumper. So because of that, he gets to dictate the pace at which he tries to make this move at.
Yeah, he does. The 9, though, is going to try and force his hand, I think, here in a little bit. He's being patient as he could possibly be. They also do have to prepare if your guarantee is wrong, then they've got a lot of laps to run on these tires, and they don't want to burn them up too quickly. So lots of things at stake. That's why you're kind of always at the mercy of other people in motorsports and in racing. It's just part of it, right?
It is. The total control is not in your hands, and you have to rely on how somebody else is going to race you, also how everybody else behaves in terms of strategizing. And you're right, everybody is able to get to the end of the race out of fuel, but they pitted 23 laps ago. You got 65 laps left in this race. You're talking about an 88 lap run to the end. That's right there in line with the longest runs of the night we've seen. And on some of those long runs, we've seen cars be really good early and have the wheels fall off late, right? Brad Newman, for example, had an opportunity to lead laps in this race, got reeled in by Joseph towards the end of the most recent long run. So there is a very valid point in not using up everything you've got now, because it's got to last you to the end.
It's got to. And if it doesn't, then you've just thrown away a chance to win this race, and you had the speed. You're a victim of circumstance. Sorry, that was a line in a Billy Joel song.
Well, we've dropped a lot of pop culture references. We've given points updates, hockey references. We've talked about the alcoholic selection at some of the NASCAR tracks. I mean, we've talked about a lot. Is they're going to have to sneak by Tom Wetmore there a little bit close, but that was an aggressive
still in this race
for Roman. He's 11 laps down in 23rd.
Yeah, and that engine I thought expired, but
well,
hey,
the
he's
thing
still
is,
running.
Nobody behind him on track is still running. So you can park it, you're still going to get 23rd.
All right, Josh Williams. Park it.
No, miss.
Miss?
Miss.
Swing and a miss?
Yeah.
Well, the Diamondbacks' last hitter didn't even swing on that strikeout.
They got a lot of swing and misses in the last 3 days, I'll tell you that.
Sounds like the Phillies.
You know.
I do.
The gap for these top 3 is growing. I mentioned it was a second ahead of 4th on the back not that long ago. Now 1.6 one thing we haven't had in this race, we've had, dominant cars. Only 3 cars have led a lap. That's, or actually 5 cars, but 3 of them were still in this race. Smallwood and Schneider led laps. Those were under yellows and cars staying out. And not that they don't count, but for competitive cars, 3, right? Sean Conklin led 129, Newman 74, Joseph 39. At no point, though, have we really seen like one car be way out in front. And these top 3 are really trying to narrow our focus, right? Naney's been good, Gossett's been good, Ensign's been good. They've all had chances. They haven't been able to take that next step. And I don't know if they can, right? The 8, the 1, and the 9 are dialed in right now. They are the best cars on track definitively. And we'll see if they have the opportunity to fight it out amongst themselves, or if they use up too much of their stuff and fall back late in the run, or if they start fighting with each other and allow the cars behind to close in. We've seen those big beating and banging battles for the lead. Allow the cars not in the active battle for the race lead to close in gaps of 2.5 seconds plus in a few laps. But clearly, these 3 have the opportunity to dictate the nature of this race, assuming that, again, nobody else in the field wants to mix things up and change those plans. A little bit more lap traffic up the road. They're going to be catching Cody Smith next. He's the last car in the lead lap in 19th position. He'll be the next car they get to.
Lawrence Shaughnessy is very upset with Tom Wetmore. Wetmore actually had his engine expire right in front of Shaughnessy, and he just ran into the back of him.
Yeah, it blew up right where the 31 was coming off of the corner for, and Lawrence was running in 15th position when that happened. He's still there, but he did get some front-end damage, and Alan Pajari and Maggie McGuire, some of these other names who have done a real good job too, by the way. For the fact that we haven't talked about them, a lot of that means that's been good for them tonight, because we're talking about people running each other over and spinning out, hitting the wall and crashing. So, all those names for, again, fighting through and finishing a full-length race like this in the top split, no easy matter. So they've all done a good job by staying off the radar and are trying to sneak in some top 20, top 15, maybe even top 10 finishes.
Well, I'll tell you
they're going to have an opportunity to try to get at Lawrence in the 31 car, who is now going to have to deal with that damage for the next 57 laps.
The one driver that, to me, sticks out the most as a quiet race, but ultimately so impressive. He came in the 30th ranked driver out of 32. Miller Bonds, he's running in the top 10. I mentioned him once in this race, and he's putting in a quietly great performance right now. If he can just get to the end of this race with the top 10, that's going to be a huge iRating bump for him.
It's going to be a big win for him with his iRating of 4,200. Car in front of him's got 7,500. So he is the highest running driver with a 4,000 iRating in the field. In fact, the next 6-7 cars behind him, all with 4,000 iRating as well. So he's outrunning his peers, and he's up against some of those top talents. It could be a very big night for him in terms of the iRating bonus as well. That's the 7 to Daniel Naney working on lap traffic. Again, not for position. That red number 20 car is the aforementioned Cody Smith that I talked about. 19th spot, going a lap down. That makes Gregory Thompson the last car on the lead lap. I do not see Gregory Thompson getting lapped in this race if this goes to the end. He is still 16 seconds up the road from the leaders. So that may be the last bit of competitive lap traffic that the leaders have to deal with. Anybody else they'll catch may be cars significantly off the pace because they're damaged.
I feel like there is a chance for very late in the run, 3 or 4 cars. But other than that, I think, yeah, you're right. Not enough time for the speed that we're seeing with most of the top half of the field as a whole. To go down a lap in 50 or so more laps. So, nonetheless, it's really drivers against themselves, right? Joseph sees Vroman in the mirror. That makes him a little bit worried. Vroman, to me, is that driver who doesn't have to worry about the aggression levels, because it's up to himself. Joseph, I think Vroman's saying to himself, hey, he's going to make his own mistake. If he doesn't, then it'll force the issue a little bit at the end of the run. But for now, there's no worry. There's no point to force anything at this moment in time. If you're a driver like Tommy Gossett or Daniel Naney, we're watching them race right now, you don't want to fight each other right now. You just want to pick them off if you can, but just keep running your race, running your lap times. 50 laps here is a ton of time and a lot of opportunities to wear out those tires. It's a flat track. You're wearing them out quicker than you usually do on a banked oval, and I mean, this will be like an 86 or so lap run on some caution laps, most green, on these tires if another caution does not come out. So, Evan, you still say we've got 5 more in us. We'll see if that happens.
I'm getting a little bit more.
Right,
yeah, a little bit nervous. Look out, right by the leader. Slow on the inside of the racetrack. Was it the 31 machine? It was. And for all the yellows that we've seen Barney toss tonight, he keeps it in the pocket as Lawrence Shagnesi just got hooked by the 15 car, Maggie McGuire, and full-on wrecked into the inside wall, turned around and came to a full stop. The difference is it all happens below the yellow line, and that's why there's no yellow, I assume.
Barney, what you doing, bud?
You couldn't see it. It's so far from the flag stand.
Oh, that's fair. The cameraman's right there. That camera stand.
Yeah, I don't know if the camera can zoom. If the lens is too big, the lens, you can't zoom out to see the car under him, so he's in a blind spot.
Yeah, that's a blind spot. Barney just couldn't see it.
I'm going to count that. That's number 3 on the 6.5, right? It's got to be. That's got to be. For what we've seen
such
tonight,
a joke. Wow, that's not even
3.
You're not even technically. You're not even technically correct there, bud. Technically correct would be correct in this case.
We're inside of the final 1/6 of this race, and inside of 50 laps to go. Joseph does not have an opportunity to lead the most laps in this race. He is too far behind Sean Conklin's total of 129 to do so, but if he leads the next 20, he could surpass Brad Newman for second most laps led. No real bonus to that besides just some brownie points. And again, for a driver who was in the conversation a lot, but had a terrible start for being the pole sitter, never really had his moment out in front. He's enjoying the limelight now, but it has been a long race to this point. 2 hours, 35 minutes from the green flag, but these are going to be a really long 45 laps for him to get to the end of the race. If it goes green, you're looking at 22, 23 minutes, and I bet you those laps are going to feel about twice as long as that as they get closer and closer to the end.
Would you rather be the leader right now or second on equal tires and race cars?
Whew, I don't hate being the leader. I don't hate the spot that Joseph is in right now.
I mean, I wouldn't hate either of those positions. So what are you trying to say there?
I like Joseph where he runs now. You know, there's the age-old saying of, you know, the leader. Do you want to be second, chasing and, you know, defending, or if we get, you know, a pit strategy and tires? I think obviously everyone's going to go tire-wise just because of how long the run has been. But I like where Joseph is right now in the race lead. I don't think that, you know, Roman's within striking distance, certainly at 6-7 tenths back, but he's not dictating the pace of the gate. The 8 is just enough ahead that I don't think he's needing to push by looking in the mirror and seeing the gap to Roman. And whenever you can dictate your pace, that's a good thing.
Okay. I like that.
Official answer. Lock it in.
I appreciate your official answer there. Roman has lost a few tenths in recent laps, and like you said, yeah, you don't have the lead, you don't have the lead, right? That's the whole goal, that's the whole point.
It's a factual statement. If you're not the leader, not the leader.
Well, we lost because we had fewer points scored.
I hate when that happens.
Why is our producer coming in every hour and a half to say something?
Sometimes the camera's on the same car for 20 minutes at a time.
I've noticed
I think he's just doing it to let us know he's awake down there.
I mean, he does have a flight to catch in probably 2 hours at this point.
Yeah, but he's traveling to scenic Dayton,
Ohio.
Yeah, so he's got a lot to look forward to.
I mean, his boss must hate him.
Right?
Silence.
I was just enjoying the race car sounds. We haven't done it tonight. I don't even have permission. Yeah, I don't even have permission from the producer, but I'm just going to call for it. Let's go.
Fan immersion.
Racing full throttle here on the
Bankruptcy.
iRacing Esports Network, and let's take in the sights and sounds of these NASCAR Next Gen Cup cars at the Phoenix Raceway. Well, a late race caution here at the Phoenix Raceway, and again, it changes everything. Joshua Watson in the 11 car was running in 9th position, battling with Miller Bonds, and as they went off to turn number 3, the 30 went low, and right there, inside pit
What'd
wall,
I say?
on the yellow line. You talked about it earlier. The 11 kind of half-blocked, and it spooked the 30 to just turn right into the fence, bounced off it, took him out. And just when you thought the over-under was dead, it's number 4 late in this race, and we are
Number
down
3.
pit road. I think the decision's got to be 4 tires and fuel. You've been out there for 50 laps, but this is going to come down to execution.
Yeah, I would only say 2 tires if we were within 25 laps, maybe. At this point, though, you still got to go with 4 tires because that's still going to be a lot of time and a lot of wear put on the Goodyear rubber as this race reaches its conclusion. But probably go back to green flag racing with 35 or so laps to go. We'll see who wins this battle off of pit road. They were all right next to each other when they went into the pits here. The one took 2 tires.
Wow.
That's
Big
not
call.
That's not a race-winning call to me right there. Everyone
Big
else
call
is taking
for
4.
Vroman. Joseph had the number 1 pit stall, so he always
Wow.
had an advantage. It looks like everybody else is going to go for 4, and Nicholas Vroman stands on an island as the only driver to take 2.
I mean, I'm no crew chief, but I think that was the wrong call. I mean, no one else took 2 tires, and you have so little. You have so little to gain from 2 tires when you're in second. Just, I don't know. I don't think that was the right move. I think you take 4 tires, and if you lose a spot or 2, you're still in the top 5.
Yeah, like I get it from a car in 7th, 6th, right? Like you need a little bit more. I don't know if Nick Vroman was that convinced that he was out of it. You know, he's running in P2 when the yellow comes out. I don't know if that's far enough back to be desperate, unless, again, he was giving it everything he can. Joseph was pulling away, and he's like, well, listen, I'm going to finish second if I keep the course, so I've got to try something. So maybe that's where the decision comes from, is he didn't feel like he could win it when he was even. But if you're even with him, then at least mistakes, yellows, wrecks, all those things can benefit you.
Yeah, that's I just think it's the wrong move. I don't know if it was him. I mean, sometimes you out-strategize yourself, right? Like, you overthink it. I think that was a bit of overthinking. Now, he does gain 1 spot from it, but I don't think having 0 left side tires, fresh left side tires, really, it's not going to be a huge deal, obviously. It's left sides versus right side. But even then, it's so little to gain.
We've also reached the point in the race where there's temper tantrums on the radio and drivers are upset with other drivers. And listen, it's Phoenix.
Someone's winning
not
a
short
championship.
track, but it's a mile, right? So it's kind of that gray area. You'll get tempers. And there are certainly
Big tempers.
Yeah, there's certainly some tempers. A familiar sight up front, though, with a lot of Ryko Fords. And again, let's set the scene for you. This restart will have 34 laps to go and 278 completed. Nick Vroman decided to take 2 tires only onto pit road. Everybody's good on field at the end of the race. He's the only one who just took 2, which means Joseph to his outside and Gossett behind him. 4 tires, an opportunity to pounce. Green flag in the air with 34 laps to go. It's a good start for the 1 car, but here comes Joseph. Tucks in line for P2 and seals off Gossett. Now looks to the inside, way to the apron with a huge slide job, but he swings and misses. Vroman crosses him back over.
I don't think I've ever seen a move like that attempt to be made. That was just pointless, honestly. I mean, you just wasted some of your fresh tires and kind of gave a mulligan almost to the one who has no left sides on. Cody Smith, by the way, is affecting this battle as well because he's still got a fast car, but he's a lap down and he's in front of the leaders. So I wonder if that's going to affect them aero-wise and what they depend on here in the closing laps of this race.
Yeah, last car on the lead lap, got the wave around, came down pit road for service, didn't catch the field. So that is not an easy pass up the road. That is a relatively quick race car, right? That's lead lap speed race car. That's a front and a spinner. It's the 7 and another quick yellow.
4, not 5.
5.
4.
Okay, 4. Maybe Barney's in with me on the over.
Well, if he was, he would have thrown a few more. Need to make it look good.
I thought it was a good save, all things considered. You get sideways like that off of the corner. They're just leaning on each other. The 7 bounces up. I mean, there's not really much you could expect at a Korean scene there.
Though.
But that's a battle for 4th and 5th. Just misses the pit wall and then locks it up and doesn't touch anything else. So that's a successful save for Naney. But again, going to go from a top 5 spot to probably 18th by the time we're talking about a restart. So that is a big blow to lose that many positions this late in a race after fighting so hard for almost 3 hours.
I mean, Naney's been there the entire time, right? He's been in the top 10. He's been fighting sometimes in the top 5, and he hasn't really gone outside of those positions until right now, and that could have been race over right there, but he gets fortunate, doesn't hit anything either, so never even went completely 90 degrees to the left, so he gets back on. He's going to be at the end of this lead lap. He's still got a lot of speed in that car, still fresh tires, right? Even if they're a little bit worn down, so he'll be able to move with some quick pace and quick speed, and I think he'll get back into the top 10 just based on, you know, his racecraft and his pace in this race alone. I think a win is very much outside the realm of possibility now, unless stranger things happen. I still can't believe that move from Joseph. That was Carl Edwards, Kansas 2008-esque.
That's like last lap. Like, toss it in there and hope that you park the bus in front of him.
Not with
and
35.
To his credit, he didn't park the bus in the middle of the corner, because if you do that also, that's pretty reckless, because the car behind you is going to go through your deck lid. But maybe he thought that the one would just be junk off the corner. Again, in the end, it doesn't hurt him, right? He was second when he made the dive. He's still second. So it's not the most blasphemous thing in the world. Not even the dumbest thing I've seen in the last 15 laps. But it was bold, right? I think if he just stays in line, he can probably line him up off the corner, get the lead, and then you're the control car for this restart. But maybe the fact that Joseph felt like he had to make that aggressive of a move speaks to maybe he's not really convinced that he's got the big upper hand on Vroman here. And if we start to stack yellows up here, we're inside of 30 to go now. If we keep taking chunks of 3, 4, 5 laps off this tally every time we get a yellow, there might not be a ton of opportunities to make that move real pretty.
Yeah, that was, oof. I don't know if that was just a, hey, I can do this. What are you going to do about it kind of move. I don't know if he thought he could go into the corner thinking he was going to get it. Or just make it uncomfortable for the one. If anything, like, he just kept moving down. I thought he was just going to come in, sharper angle, just slide up, maybe, lean on him a bit. No, he went full sprint car slide job right there.
Absolute full send.
I mean, Daniel Ricciardo would be so proud.
I was thinking more Oh, now I'm forgetting the name. Other Red Bull car. Missile. Danny Kvyat?
Danny Kvyat!
Yeah, there we go. That's
Torpedo!
where I was going with it. The torpedo, yes. He torpedoed him into the corner.
He totally did. I thought you were talking about the other Red Bull driver who is having the worst season I think I've ever seen. Sergio Perez.
Yeah, tough.
Tough. Do. Max,
You're not gonna finish the song for us?
I thought you were gonna help me out.
Oh, that's all you can.
That's all me. Okay, go off.
You know, like the track plays the hype music coming to the restarts. I thought you were doing that for us. I thought we were just tapping into the PA system.
That would be
Sim.
awesome, and I believe we'd get copyright strike for
probably.
that. But Josh Lee is going to be the one that falls on that sword for us.
Josh can find some stomp, clap, rap, royalty-free
What are we
stuff. And the
doing?
yellow is going to be extended. The restart is waved off. The cars towards the back of the field had not yet cycled through to their correct position, so the field is just going to remain in their 2x2 formation. And in theory, the pace car is simply going to pull back onto the racetrack here and pick them back up. But this goes to my point on, with yellows, you lose more and more laps. That's less opportunities. The lights are out on the pace car, so they're going to have to get doubled up really quick. The pace car is going to be gone in about 15 seconds, but there's just one more lap taken off of the board.
We're not to that point yet where I feel like that one lap is going to be such a big deal. Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it is one lap fewer that you're able to make moves, able to get to the front, able to hold your position. But we're not with under 10 laps to go. You know what I mean? Like, we're not looking at, you got one or two more tries in a move. We're still looking at, there's a lot that can happen here with the rest of that race. Does that count as another yellow?
Let's make it 5. We'll see what the number is, but I'm gonna hold that one in my back pocket. The tower is gonna review it to see if it counts towards the total. Nick Roman, no surprise, inside of the front row. Remember the fresher tires to everybody. That includes Joseph to his outside, Gossett behind him, Ensign and Coughlin in the top 5. Green flag is back in the air. It's another good jump for the one.
Boy.
But the A-car's aggressive. Joseph all the way to the bottom before they even got to the stripe. Side by side for third, as it is the 13 of Ensign to the outside of Tommy Gossett.
Man.
But nose to tail for the race lead as Joseph is all over him off of turn 2.
Joseph got right into the back of the one. How about one more time? Shaking him up, letting him know that he's there. I mean, the 8 is doing everything in his power to win this race, but a caution is out.
Just as Joseph tried to get to the lead.
That Gossett.
And wow, Tommy Gossett, second straight yellow. That comes from a top 5 car. The attrition for the highest running cars continues late. Man, this looks similar to the last one. The 13 pinched up high, the car underneath him, driving into the door and spinning out.
13 is just taking a lot of shots tonight. And the crazy thing is, Corey Ensign can win this race. He's going to restart in third. So many of these incidents have not been his fault, but he's been involved. And he's been bullied a little bit. And
they're taking themselves out. He's holding his line. They're pinching up. And because of those 2 cars removing themselves, he's gone from 5th to 4th, now 3rd. And again, how tough must it be to spend 3 hours on a race and lose it in the final 30? I mean, that's tough for some of those cars who have been running well, involved in some of the most recent incidents.
I feel like now we talk about short-term speed, and here's the strategy, and I am so excited we're seeing a little bit of strategy right here. The last 4 cars on the lead lap are all coming down pit road, including Tommy Gossett, for fresh tires. Is this a potential, I don't know if it's a race-winning move, but maybe top 5, top 10 at the very least? I think this absolutely helps your case because, you know, last time these cars did come down pit road, it was around, what, 30, 40 laps ago, and we had a little bit of green flag racing, but maybe a little bit more than that.
There's probably been, like, what, 4 green flag laps of it? They last pitted 14 laps ago.
Oh, yeah, I lied.
On track, but not many of those have been under green.
Yeah, all right. Well, completely forget anything I just said. Terry Radford is watching, by the way.
I would expect nothing less. I really hope he heard my PB&H sandwich joke earlier, and if he didn't, Terry, you got to scrub it back.
Yeah, Terry, he's asking me who's out here blasting some strays, and both of us?
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. It's a long race. We're having fun. We appreciate everybody joining us and being in chat, hanging out on this Wednesday night. It is on the East Coast, at least here, raced into Thursday morning.
Ah, yes. Welcome to the East Coast, buddy.
Yeah, it's different.
East Coast vibes are
still
different.
working on it. Still working on it. Thought the lights would be out that time by. They stay on. That's, again, just another lap behind the pace car. One more lap for Nick Vroman to stay in the lead. And now, of the cars who have led 10 or more laps in this race, all four of them running inside of the top 5. Roman's led 15. He's your leader. Joseph is second. He's led 64. Corey Ensign, the only one who hasn't led any. We've talked about the 13 being involved in some of the recent incidents, but being able to keep the car on track, gaining positions because of them. And then Conklin in 4th has led the race high 129. And Brad Newman has led 74. So the best of the best have marched their way to the front of the field in this full-length iRacing Phoenix NASCAR finale. And if tonight's coverage is inspiring you to get on the service, you can learn more information on how to start your iRacing career, where every day is race day, at iRacing.com. If you're a new member, there are new membership deals available all the time. If you're an existing member, I know there's always good Black Friday deals around the corner. Dylan, I'm circling those dates on my calendar to renew my subscription as well. So many different disciplines of racing you can do here on the iRacing service. So iRacing.com, your home to get more info.
Yeah, absolutely. iRacing is a wonderful experience, and you can be a part of not just leagues or official series. You can join us in the broadcast booth, like the community around so many disciplines. It's a ton of fun, and I mean, you get the chance to race alongside some of the real-world drivers in the sport, and it's fun. Especially when you work in racing, or you're trying to work in the racing. Make some connections from iRacing. You'll potentially get there.
Nicholas Vroman, meanwhile, trying to make a connection with Victory Lane here tonight, trying to steal it with the 2-tire call. Still a long way to go. Another yellow going to fall to the wayside. 20 laps to go at Phoenix. Green flag back in the air. It's a good jump for him. And Ensign gets to the inside of Joseph to challenge for P2.
Yep, 13's going to be aggressive. Uh-oh. Vroman's blinking out of here.
Connection issue with the race leader. He's gone for the moment. The battle for P2. Does that become a battle for the race lead? High side off of 2. Clear for the lead is Joseph. Here comes Conklin. The 2, though. Sean Conklin has led more laps than anybody else tonight. He can't get to the lead. The 8 shuts the door. Ensign right back underneath. Side by side for the race lead.
Yeah, Vroman's gone. He's done. He's out of this race. The 8 and the 13 make contact. 13 trying to slide underneath. He's tired of getting bullied, but the 8 holds strong on the outside. And now Conklin with a run on the outside. He's going to push the 8 into the corner. Comes down in front of the 13 and forces his way into front. But he gets clipped in the right rear quarter panel by the 8. They're all swapping positions.
3 wide for second after Conklin blew 3. He makes contact with Ensign. The 9 car trying to force his way through, and all of a sudden it's Brad Newman back to second. Vroman on the old tires had done such a good job of holding him off, and inside of 20 to go, a connection issue on his end takes him out of this race in the blink of an eye. I always equate that as the sim racing equivalent is just a mechanical failure that comes out of nothing. It's the technology that bites you. He is out of this race. Nicholas Vroman will not win this iRacing Phoenix NASCAR finale. Up front, Joseph trying to hold the advantage. Newman in second. Ensign third.
7th and 16.
4th there. Berman gets turned, and Barbarema into the wall. Naney's the one who hooked him. And another yellow. And another restart coming up.
That was some of the most exciting racing I think I've ever seen. Holy cow. Let's get a replay. 16, 7, 2. They're all hitting each other. 16 kind of runs up to the 2. They settle down for a bit. Corner exit, though.
Yeah, 7 just went through.
Yeah, the 7 just... That's totally on the 7 right there.
It's late, so no one's going to lift, but clearly the 7 initiates that contact there, and spins the 16 out. A couple of fakers and some takers on pit road. Daniel Naney's going to pit from the number 9 spot. No other major players do so. So it's going to be the unpopular call, and there's the onboard perspective from the 7.
Wow, that was just awesome racing. I feel bad for Vroman, really do. I mean, hey, spark plugs having issues. It's basically that, is it not? You know, sometimes you just hear over the radio, and I can say a few times this year with the 16 Xfinity team, we're listening on the radio, and then we hear, hey, it's smoking, I need to come in. And all of a sudden the pit crew gets to work, and it's a mad scramble, but it's so deflating. But it happens. That's part of racing. You can't, you know, you gotta work with what you got, and sometimes the internet, your ISP, everything like that is just as important. Who knows? Maybe it's just as simple as dog came and bit the plug.
So what number are we at on the over-under? Is this
I believe
6?
6. I think 6.
So we are right at the over-under of 6.5, and that's not even counting my
impressive.
fake yellow extended yellow. So I don't know if we need a dirty Modo or what the race spot equivalent would be of the iRacing Sportsbook, but I think we set a pretty good over-under there, and I still stand by that it's going to go over to prove me correct again, and it'll all be fun.
Well, you know,
first I know the fuel strategy, then I know the answer to the yellows. It's a good night.
I knew the inside of the pit wall was going to be an issue.
You did see to your point, you did notice that there was a wall on the inside of the racetrack.
Okay.
It's exclusive to the Phoenix Raceway. I haven't seen one of those anywhere else. Good observation. You know there's one on the outside, too.
Not.
I'm willing to predict someone's going to have an issue with the outside wall at some point, too.
You know, I do think that's a wild thought process, but I think there's some potential for the outside wall to become a star in this one.
I like it, the blue. I like when tracks do different colored walls.
Me too. I don't like...
Vegas has gone yellow for the last couple of years. It reminds me kind of old school Charlotte. Phoenix has got the yellow. What other ones? Homestead's like
Darlington.
The teal.
Red and white.
Yeah, the red and white kind of alternating.
Homestead.
At Darlington is nice. Yeah, Homestead, the teal I mentioned is a cool one. Is that it?
Or Auto Club.
Rip. Tearing it up.
Dover used to have some yellow.
I'll continue the iRacing plug. If you're going to miss the 2-mile D-shaped oval in Fontana, it'll still be here on the service, just like many other racetracks that NASCAR has come and gone to. Myrtle Beach, some of the other short tracks around the country, variations and layouts like old versions of Daytona and some of the other facilities. So
you want to race at a version of Texas that you enjoy?
Yeah, a functioning turn 1 and 2. You can do it on the sim, and on the sim only, because you can't do that in real life. All right, lucky number 13 is the laps to go. It's going to be 12 when they cross under Barney's flag stand. Joseph, even tires with everybody else. You can eliminate the fuel question and the tire question from your mind after the issues that took Nicholas Vroman out of this race. Front row, inside then out, Joseph and Newman. Row 2, Ensign and Conklin, Fitzgerald, Henry, Gossett, Watson, Pajari, and Schaffner, all in the top 10 with an opportunity to steal the win in this iRacing Phoenix NASCAR finale. Green flag, it's a great start for the 8.
Perfect jump, but I don't think the 9 and the 13 had too bad of jumps for themselves. It's just one of them needs to get clear. Oh, there's a spin in the back. Oh, big hit. Outside wall does say hello. Caution number 7 in this last 90-lap stretch, and it's Bakey, as well as the 28.
Yeah, Schaffner involved in this one. First incident that we've seen him in so far tonight, and some frustration over the radio, I think, going to be Maggie McGuire, the cause of this one. They weren't 3 wide into the corner, but she drove it in a little bit deep. You'll see the bright pink 15 just there, a little touch to the 17, and you probably get away with that at any other point in the race, but when you're 3 wide and you loosen somebody up, there's nothing the 17 could have done. Got into the 28, and again, it's late in the race. We've seen cars drive it in there deep, and McGuire goes in a touch too deep. Here's the onboard.
Yeah, Maggie just... I mean, I hate to say it. I know some people were complaining about McGuire with a pink Boston Bruins scheme.
Talking about our hockey references, so there you go.
There you go. Yeah, I know some people, McGuire's been the ire of them tonight. I mean, we've heard them, people yelling. I think Shaughnessy was very upset earlier. And of course, McGuire going right into there was, yeah, that's. I'm trying to find a good way to say that wasn't.
Well, listen,
McGuire's
I can
fault or
I can say
happened.
this with happiness because Boston is a storied hockey franchise, and that's like a Marchand move, right? Maybe
It's
a little
totally a
bit,
Marchand
little bit too
move.
much. Now, I could say that as somebody who grew up cheering for like Habitant du Canadien and, you know, quite a rivalry in the National Hockey League, but it's a Marchand move, right? I mean, you get it, but didn't need it, and it's a tough break for Maggie too because she had been having a good run and just too much there. You know, we've seen a lot of drivers overshoot the corner, so certainly the 15's fault on that one. She does benefit because, again, when the cars got sideways, they went up, she didn't, so she maintains P13, still in the running for a top 10. Yes, positions gained, and we are officially on the over for the yellows. 50 laps to go in this race. We're having a green flag run. Dylan's feeling real confident. Oh, you sure about the over on the yellows?
All right.
Absolutely. Never wavering, committed to the bit, and got it right.
There's a reason you're the pro.
Philly
Evan.
just can't win anything.
Philly can't win a dang thing.
That's
Man, that's why I moved to Charlotte, because Charlotte is the city of champions right now, right?
I mean, based on your track record, I don't know. It might not be a good idea.
I mean, Panthers just won.
A game. Let's clarify. When you say they won and we're talking about championships, a game.
15-13, baby. Go Birds, though. That's all I'm saying.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
Panthers are 1-7. Eagles are 7-1.
Well, there you go. Perfectly balanced.
As all things should be.
Exactly. Inside of 10 to go. It just feels as Joseph, by the way, this last lap has now passed Brad Newman for second of most laps led on the night. He's about to lead his 76th of the night, Newman 74. That, at least to this point, they've just been too preoccupied fighting with each other to get to Joseph. And I'd almost put it at a 50-50 split tonight, right? A lot of races you go to, you always watch the battle between second and third, right? Who's better, the car on the outside of the front row or the car behind the leader? Sometimes it's always the car behind or always the car in the front row. Tonight, I haven't really been able to pinpoint it. But the trend the last few has been neither. They've both been just good enough to hold each other up. And even if it's only side by side with each other for a lap or two, that gives Joseph all he needs to build a slight gap and then try to ride it out to the end. And again, only a fraction of the last 30 laps have been run under green. That makes his life a lot easier as well, as he just has to focus on nailing restarts. He's been good at them all night, but at what point do you run out of stuff in your bag of tricks? Can Joseph continue to nail every restart? Or have Newman, Ensign, and company been taking notes that if they figured out the game plan for the 8 car? The 13 is right on the bumper. Joseph as they pace through 3 and 4 and look for the Geico restart zone. A green flag in the air. Joseph a good jump, and it's a good jump for Ensign. He will clear Newman for second.
I'm telling you, if he gets a chance, Tommy Gossett is back into this top 5 fight. He's got the cleanest, the newest, the freshest tires on him right now. He's going to need another caution to have a shot here, but he's already gained 2-3 spots on this restart.
And just when it looked like Ensign had it, Newman crossed back to the bottom, stayed there, and they are stuck side by side for second, and it is allowing Joseph to pull away with the race lead. 3 wide mid-pack through the dogleg, all eyes on the battle for second. Newman going to get a nose in front, and every lap that this continues, it allows the 8 car to run away.
They're just so even trying to fight instead of trying to go after the 8 together. Is there going to be a shoe to drop? Will someone get very unhappy here by the end? 5 laps to go. Now, does Newman get clear? No. A fight back on the outside from Corey Ensing. They almost touch. Ensing sideways. Keeps it under control, but the 9's going to clear him.
Had to catch it a few times there, and about the time he settled
the
it down,
11.
Newman had got by him.
Watson turned right into the outside wall, but because he hit the wall, he kind of straightened it out. He took some damage, almost took out some drivers with him.
Lost some spots. He was 8th, now he's 10th, maybe more, as Jacob Klein get a challenge. There's the onboard with Newman. He was finally able to get around Ensign. So does the 2 of Sean Conklin. He's been able to get up to 3rd as well. Trying to chase down Joseph. This time by 3 laps to go. You're going to need at least a 10th per lap if you're going to get there in time.
Gonna need something. Gonna need something big to happen. We've seen Newman's speed. We'll see if that is able to continue with just 3 miles left in this race. Will there be a final twist to the tail? I mean, I don't know if we're done wrecking yet. It seems like we've calmed down enough. Newman has not made up any ground, really. He's not lost, but he hasn't gained.
Where does the pressure sit? Does it sit with Newman to close the gap, or does Joseph feel the pressure as he is the one that is on the hot seat? Any mistake will allow him to close the gap. 2 laps to go in this race. Conklin has backed off a little bit. Not as much pressure on the bumper of Newman for P2. He can focus on the leader. Penultimate time down the back straightaway.
He caught up by a couple hundredths there. It's just not enough. We're about to get the white flag. 1 lap to go here for Joseph. Will we get there? Yes, we will. Just 1 mile to negotiate.
For all of the drama, the strategies, the wrecks, and more, late in this race, the best of the best rose to the top. The cars in the top 3 have led 286 of the 312 laps tonight, but Joseph into 3, gonna lead the final lap of this race. He will find himself in Phoenix Victory Lane, winner of the NASCAR Finale Special Event.
Newman was right there. He gained a 10th and a half before the end, and he had the speed. If he had another 2 laps, I think that's completely different.
What a race. All the drama, the ups, the downs. More than 3 hours later on the stopwatch, Joseph is able to bounce back after I was convinced he had it. I was convinced Newman had it. I was convinced Conklin had it at different times. In the end, it is Joseph who stands atop the pile, and he celebrates as your race winner tonight of the iRacing Phoenix NASCAR Finale. Anytime you win a top split NIS open race, it's a big deal, and maybe the lights shine just a little bit brighter on this Thursday morning for this special event highlighted on the iRacing special events calendar and broadcast here on RaceSpot and the iRacing Esports Network. As his burnout continues off and into the smoke, we take a look at your iRacing full race results. Final margin of victory, 0.3 of a second over Brad Newman, who comes home in second, the highest finishing international driver representing Club Australia, New Zealand. Sean Conklin also comes home in third. Again, those were the best 3 cars all night. Fitting that despite everything that happened, they're the ones who finish on the podium. Fitzgerald ahead of, or behind Ensign, I should say, for the 5th and then 4th position, respectively, with Tommy Gossett, PB Henry, Alan Pajari, Cody Smith, and Joshua Watson, your top 10.
Continue moving down the order with position number 11 going to Jacob Klein. A good recovery drive for him. Lawrence Shaughnessy will finish in 12th with Brandon Bakey in 13th. JR Bobarema, the Brazilian, in 14th, with Maggie McGuire finishing with the namesake, number 15, in 15th. Mark Patchett finishes in 16th, and Gregory Thompson, Josh Schaffner, last 2 cars on the lead lap, 17th and 18th. Miller Bonds finishes 2 laps down, almost at a top 10 going for Miller, just could not complete it. Now we start to get back into the depths in the woods here of lap down cars. Matt Hollabach is 6 laps down in 20th, Evan.
Yeah, these cars unable to make it to the distance in this one. Daniel Nanny, Nicholas Vroman, who had quite a night in his own right, but it doesn't all come together in the end for him after leading 17. Tom Wetmore was the top 10 car lot tonight. William K. Price, Chris Preffer, your top 25, with Chris Wilhite, Jacob Schneider, Daniel Smallwood, Alex Montanelli, and Austin Brooks, your top 30. Only Luis Salmaso and Derek Heitman follow thereafter. You see them in 31st and 32nd position. That is a look top to bottom at your iRacing full race results tonight from the Phoenix Raceway. And we do coming into any of these full-length NASCAR NIS Open races, Dylan, that we're going to see a lot, and we got treated to everything. Wrecks, drama, anger, green flag run, strategy, you name it. It was a fun night.
It was great. Actually, it was probably the best kind of racing that you'll see. Maybe a little bit too much wrecking, but at Phoenix Raceway, this was awesome. Great for any race track, but especially for Phoenix, I feel like it blew the socks off of what some of us expected.
And of course, the NIS season comes to an end, but this race highlighted on the iRacing special events calendar means that we roll on to the next iRacing special event next week. You thought this one was long? Tune in for 8 hours at Fuji. That one takes place over the weekend of November 10th through 12th. And what a fantastic circuit, right? We talk about the variance of what you can do here on the iRacing service if you sign up. And not only is it racing Cup cars at Phoenix, where NASCAR will crown a champion this weekend, but it's going to some of the best circuits across the globe, and Fuji definitely falls in that category.
Yeah, absolutely. Fuji is one of those tracks that I feel like doesn't get enough love from maybe the North American audience, but it is a great track. It's flowing. It's got some technical corners. I enjoy watching races there, and hey, that's just in a week or so's time. You should tune in to RaceSpotTV. Check it all out.
We hope to catch you then. Until next time, that is it for us here tonight from Phoenix. On behalf of our entire team at RaceSpotTV and iRacing, for our producer Joshua Lee, for Dylan Coyle, and myself, Evan Pasoko, want to thank you for tuning in. Congratulations to Joseph, your race winner of this week's iRacing Phoenix NASCAR Finale feature broadcast. You can get in on the rest of the NIS Open action throughout the weekend. But until next time, good night from Phoenix.